Oh, wow. What a douche. Stupid douche. Fucked your campaign. You dumb fuck.
Good Lord. Now do that all night.
Bill, we can't hear you.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey, Bill.
You hear me?
I can hear you now. What did you yell? I want to know what you yelled.
Oh, I was just singing along with you.
Oh, hell
it was
yeah.
nice. I was going, bam, bam.
I could see it. I thought you were, I heard it. I felt it.
Yeah.
So I thought you were, well, everybody, what a day.
What a day.
The race is over.
This has been like one of the best days in stupid Worcester Twitter ever, I think. It just keeps getting dumber. Like, we're not even close to election season really coming into full swing, and it just keeps getting consistently stupid this early on by nature of just one weird guy who won't stop. It's just one weird guy who I used to have to hang out with every day when I worked at Worcester Magazine is now a consistent part of my life because he's just the main character of stupid Worcester Twitter every fucking day.
Before we get into it, shout out to Yenni. She can't join us tonight. She's sick. Yenni, kill it in the comments. We know you will. Feel better. Mo Bergman, feel better too. I just feel like, stop doing all that cocaine in your car, and then, then we won't have these problems.
Yeah, then you won't have a stuffy nose.
I wasn't kidding. I posted on her story earlier that I hadn't looked at the agenda at all. I haven't looked at it. I don't care.
Well, I got to tell you, there's not much to look at. Pending it doesn't get held again, which I'm kind of assuming at this point it will. Mm-hmm. The only real thing of note on tonight's agenda is the police body camera stipends.
Right, and you could go either way. They either aren't going to bother because, according to our crack legal team, our crack cocaine legal team in Worcester, they don't need to. That they're legally obligated to pay these people already, or they're going to quickly pass it because, the law says that
Yeah.
The law in this town says that
Worcester
they
is
must.
legally obligated to negotiate with terrorists. That's just the way it is, man.
So I think that this moment, and I've been writing one of those big long posts all today where I feel like I'm saying something very important, but Bryan just makes fun of me because it's too long for him to read. I've been really trying to hammer away at how this moment shows that I don't even think the city hall has any control over the police department. Like,
No.
I don't think that there's anything meaningful they could do. And all of this is just sort of cover for the fact that even if they could, they're not going to try to do anything. You know, all the public opposition in the world, this is just a line that you don't cross. You don't tell the cops no. You don't not give the cops what they want.
Right.
And this is just like an especially glaring, embarrassing moment of them having to do this. Yeah.
It would be less embarrassing for them if it wasn't literally happening at the same time as the teachers
Yes.
about to go on strike for not
Yes.
not being given the things they need, while the cops are getting the things they don't need.
Right. So that's part of the point that I've been trying to make is that was Eric Batista completely oblivious to the optics blunder he was stepping into, or did he just not have any control over it? Like, did he just have to eat shit because the police union wants this gunned through right now? Because I have to imagine he's not so dumb that he wouldn't see, like, the obvious fucking critique here is like, you can't pay teachers like a cost of living increase, but you're doing this now while you haven't settled the contract.
Right.
And he's just maintaining that they have nothing to do with each other and that they're separate, which is just a fucking lie. You know,
It's a bald-faced lie.
it doesn't work on anybody but Hank Stoltz. You know,
Right? Yeah. It's one of the two most credulous men in Massachusetts.
yeah. So the city manager either doesn't know or care, or he knows that part of his job is just eating shit for the police unions when he has to.
I think that's the interesting thing about Eric is finding out how much is sincerely held beliefs versus like political stridency, where like
I thought you were going back to dinosaurs. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, well, yeah. I mean,
As you were.
sincerely held beliefs are an issue for him, but
yeah, is this like a dinosaur situation for him where like he knows that it's not true, but he can't really say so.
Yeah.
So he just kind of has to like skirt around it.
I think it feels like that. He does seem to be genuinely somebody that has more progressive beliefs than definitely Ed Augustus and definitely Joe Petty. But
you know what?
How much of that he's willing?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sorry.
Okay, sure.
I'm not entirely sure of that. I think that we might be looking at like a real like fucking, you know, Charlie Baker style conservative in plain sight here.
Very likely. I would say it's probably more likely. In the things that you hear. Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. I think maybe it is that he knows what to say and who to say it to. Because all the stuff you hear in the background is like, no, he wants to do more. This is what he really thinks and blah, blah, blah. It's just like he's trying to work up to it and all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, maybe he's just telling that to the people that he thinks need to hear that so he can get away with doing his Charlie Baker shit. So yeah, you're right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
Yeah, I have no idea. Who knows? It's not like he's ever made to answer any of these questions or like meaningfully speak on anything. So, you know, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah.
But this whole no search thing is going great so far, I gotta say.
Are you a Charlie Baker Republican? Is the kind of question you might be able to ask in an interview. If you were to have such a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
If such
send
a
him an
thing were
email
to
next week,
exist.
see if he'll come on to answer that specific question.
Yeah.
It is interesting that, again, he has now lost his handpicked or the handpicked pro-police useful idiot candidate because Rivera just fucked his campaign. And again, my theory is that it was fucked anyways. It takes 100 signatures to get into a district race. It takes 300 to get into an at-large race. I really strongly, truly, 100% believe he couldn't get 300 signatures. So his last-ditch effort is to switch into the district that he lives in, which unfortunately is already wrapped up by the buzzsaw, the most beloved candidate that is maybe exists in the city, besides two possibly. So
yeah, he's gonna get rinsed, dude. He's gonna get, it's gonna be fucking,
washed.
it's gonna be the Boston Bruins, you know. It's just gonna be embarrassing. And yeah, it seems like this is the result of a petty personal beef that Walter Bird Jr. has with a homeless encampment. Is why they switched over to do D5, and I don't think that message is going to track outside of the 20 or so weirdos they already know that live around there.
Right.
And he's just going to eat massive shit.
Yep.
And it opens up a lane for more progressives to get on the at-large side, and fundamentally changes the math in a positive direction. So thank you, Jose Rivera, for being a stupid idiot and an asshole.
You dumb. The biggest mistake you ever made in your goddamn life was meeting Walter Bird, you sad idiot.
Now, this is where Walter's going to claim after the fact to be playing 4D chess, and he was on the progressive side all along.
Yeah.
This was the Manchurian campaign manager. This is what he was shooting for.
Yeah.
The Manchurian.
I didn't talk about a homeless shelter like it was a leper colony. I was doing that to sink my candidate. Because I didn't want him to win.
Yeah. Wow. This guy, what a genius. But he hasn't been on Talk of the Commonwealth for over a week, so we're fine. It's fine.
Yeah. It's totally.
Who did they ever replace him?
I mean, probably still Matt Wally, right?
Just sitting in silence.
Who again? I think we can't discount Matt Wally's part in all of this. I'm sure he's got some. He's got his
some
fingers in there
Machiavellian
somewhere.
design.
Yeah.
On the whole thing.
Yeah. That's the 4D chess. He tried to get Rivera in there so Rivera would beat Attell, and then Matt Wally would run next cycle and beat Rivera and get his seat back.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, this election's going to be so stupid. But it's looking better and better every day as the right wing of the city continues to just implode on their own psychotic behavior.
It's really exciting. I gotta upload this. It's gonna take me a minute, but Ben White tweeted out as part of this announcement today a graphic of the current at-large candidates for this year's election, and it's pretty interesting when you look at it and see that as of right now, you could vote for 6 at-large councilor candidates, and not vote for any non-progressives. You don't have to. In any way, like vote for somebody you don't have faith in.
Yeah. Don't have to vote for Kate Toomey. Don't have to vote for Candy Merrill Carlson.
You don't have to vote for Joe Petty.
You don't have to vote for Joe Petty. And believe
me,
you
never had to. But
you never had to. Doesn't change the fact everyone always did, but you really don't have to.
Now there's no like lesser of two evils in a lot of ways at this point, which is kind of interesting to me. And I wanted to see your guys' thoughts on like when's the closest we've ever been to that? When's the last time there was a viable progressive slate of candidates in the city?
Before my time covering the city, that's for sure. I mean, there's always been like maybe like a token that was a little bit on the left, and then like a token right wing candidate in Mike Gaffney. But mostly it's been sort of like that old guard center holding an easy majority.
Right.
And it's been like that for, I would say, 20 years. This is like, it's really like, we're going way back to find a precedent. And if there is one, I don't know about it. It's actually like a genuinely novel and exciting thing that's happening.
It was. I was shocked.
Doesn't
today.
feel like it, but yeah.
No, yeah. I was like, oh, wait a second.
That's because it's May, and we're not supposed to be even talking about this until September. This is
right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And yet here we are because they're just
because Walter.
They're so excited to fuck it.
Maine South Bomb, who would know, who would have a really good sense of that, says this is like the last election and this election are the closest precedents we have to something like this happening in Worcester. 40 years. Look at that.
Yeah.
I don't think they even understand how tenuous their hold on the whole thing is.
Right. And that's, do they catch up to it? Do they have the ability to catch up to it?
I don't know if they do. They've never been challenged in that way.
Right. They're doing what's that thing called? National anthem. They're doing that right now.
Oh, the national anthem.
Yeah.
Word.
I don't know. I sit for it, so I wouldn't know. The only national anthem I stand for is by Radiohead. Am I right, fellas?
Wow. Dude, that's so fucking hipster of you.
Yeah. I'm pretty
Fucking
cool.
Radiohead, bro. Oh, yeah. My favorite Radiohead's Kid A because I don't understand it. OK Computer's too mainstream, bro. Oh, man.
So I don't know. Yenni, do you have the link for the agenda? You might want to. If you have a second, can you drop that in the comments? We don't have Travis tonight either. Travis is hanging out with his family. So
Weird. What an asshole.
Yeah.
It's not Thanksgiving.
Dork. God. Family. Barf.
Yeah, I mean, I looked through the agenda. There really is only the one thing.
Yeah.
I'd encourage everybody else to look through and see if you can find something else of interest. It is light.
Comb it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're
light.
talking shit about Walter Bird the whole night.
Yeah. I bet there's still going to be a bunch of public comment on the body camera stipend thing. I bet, given Kate Toomey's hold last week, we'll hear from Rick Cipro. I'm sure that's what that was all about.
Right.
Councilor King.
And
Councilor Carlson.
yeah,
Councilor
it's going to be a whole thing.
Rivera. Here. Councilor Rose.
Can you guys hear that?
Councilor Russell. Here.
Yeah.
Councilor Toomey.
Here.
And Mayor Petty.
Here. Okay, we
They got to him. They got Bill.
approve of the minutes of April.
They
11th,
sniped him out.
2023. All-
Too close to the
all in
windows.
favor? Opposed, so ordered. Public participation, the person may speak for no more than 2 minutes on any items appearing on the agenda. So this your name, city of residence, and item number.
It never doesn't kill me that he says a gender.
Thank you. Fred Nathan of Worcester. 10B. But before I go ahead, I just want to make sure of something. You did table this last week?
What is up with that funny little tie?
You don't have to take it off the table.
That is so
10B,
short.
Time is running out. 10B.
That shouldn't count my question that I'm asking you. So would you
can
start the
speak on
clock
10B.
now, please?
No, you can speak on 10B.
Good.
What is going
So,
on? Can
as
we
I
What
spoke
can we
last
zoom
week, I
in?
said,
What is on his
I
silly
know
little
there are
tie?
people that don't like the cops. I get it. I get it. I think
Let me
everybody
zoom
gets
in. I don't know how. Travis does
However,
that.
like I said last week, Mr. Mayor,
There's
if
a-
your job
looks like there's a skull at the
required you
bottom.
to do something now that you're not doing.
Yeah, it looks like the Virgin
you-
Mary
even
maybe
you,
at the
Mr.
top.
Mayor, should get paid more. So the
It
same
is
should
glorious.
Go with the cops. If a doctor does more, they get more. If an insurance does more, a
Might
car
be the Twin
salesman,
Towers.
they get more money. I don't see the problem here. I know the taxpayers may not
Well,
like
like
it,
the Twin
but
Towers, it needs to come
it
down
is what
because
it
it's quite
is.
short.
So, common sense, pay them, please.
Wow.
Angry Fred.
God.
Thank you.
What does he do for work?
He wanders around Tatnick Square with a little
What's your
carriage.
name and city of residence.
All right.
And,
That's
item number?
context. That's important context.
I don't even know what the number.
Well, just speak to the
Okay.
subject matter then.
It's Roxanne Jackson. It's chapter 14. It's a hawkers and peddlers license.
Sure.
And what it is the DCU Center has a 2 area block radius blocked off during events where I can't sell anything. That's when people are actually downtown. So I would like to get that amended so people can actually sell what they make because I make handmade items downtown. And the other one was the Parks and Commissioner. It says that you need permission to be in like on the common, but when you call them, they said you have to bid it. It's not in the ordinance. The ordinance clearly states written permission to be there. And I applied, I'm doing things the right way, and they're making it hard.
No one's gonna
And the other
know how to
one
make
is,
heads or tails of this.
a car.
No,
If I
this
don't
is
make
like
a sale
2
in
weeks ago
5
when the
minutes,
dude
I
from
have
Lincoln
to make
Street showed up talking about
250
vans.
feet. I mean, that would apply to like
A housing
like a
conversation.
parade or something. If I'm selling something, it takes longer for anybody to look at something, longer than 5 minutes. You should be able to stand there 10 to 15 minutes and move like 25 feet. So you still stay in the zone of selling. So I'm just looking for these things to be amended so I can actually sell stuff downtown, you know?
Take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll put that in the form of a motion to take a look at that. And, all those in
Motion to
favor,
take a
please
look at that.
Okay. Name, city residence.
Oh,
and the
wow.
Item number.
Amazing.
My name is Georgina Griffith. It's
Thanks,
in
being
regards to
South
item
Mom. That's great to
10B,
know.
what he just spoke about.
I'm sorry.
No problem. So it's in regards to item, I think it's 10B,
Yeah, go ahead.
what he spoke about.
Yeah.
So I'm here and really to basically state that the city has got to come up with a better way to fund the police officers if they feel that they deserve a bonus. Because if we can find money to give the bonus to police officers who are already getting paid a fair wage, we can find the
What
money
would
to update
what's on the agenda that
the
State Rep
teachers'
O'Day would be there
contract
for?
so they can get what they
Oh,
deserve.
look at that motherfucker.
Now, I have 3 sons in the public school systems. In 2 of the schools, they have to fundraise to have basic supplies of water bottles and activities for the kids to do beyond learning. If we can't find money for our students to have their basic needs that teachers are paying out of their pocket, my son is telling me they're holding fundraisers because they don't have a sufficient supply of water bottles. How can we be okay morally paying police officers an additional $1,300 a month or a week or whatever it is, and you be okay with that, knowing that we have teachers who are teaching their children, your children, so they're able to work, so you're able to work. Why aren't they put at priority? Why do they have to fight to get what they deserve, but we can even consider giving police officers
That's
a
great.
raise?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
What's your name and city residence?
Idella Hazard, City of Worcester. I spoke last night,
All
last
right.
week.
Sorry about that, guys.
on
Had
Bill,
to
you
dodge
missed
some gunfire.
You missed the most important part of the evening.
What
that it's
happened?
an issue
Well,
between
angry
the
old
union
grandpa guy was wearing the
police
funniest little tie we've ever
and the
seen.
city
It was
of
amazing.
Worcester
I hope somebody is going to clip that.
Little Trump tie?
regarding the
No,
It
it
issue
was
was-
just tiny.
The
of
big side
it's not
was
in
way
really
shorter than the
raised the
small
way I
side,
understand
and it was
Um,
the length. Both of them
but
only
if it
extended to
is,
like
then it is, but
3
that's
inches
not my
above his belly
understanding.
button.
Like
It was
nipple
like,
length at
However,
best.
yeah,
I
he
also
was like
spoke a couple
a
of
little.
weeks ago
He's just like a little
in
Fauntleroy
regards to the
tie.
teachers
A little fancy
getting a
guy.
raise.
He was a little fancy guy.
And I mentioned that the teachers are very important. They help send our children to college.
Yep.
Now, if they have to buy water bottles for the children, perhaps they can ask.
I think it was wider than it was
parents
longer.
To send water
It's a chode tie.
in a
A little
recyclable
chode tie.
water bottle and alleviate.
Chode
the
tie
issue.
for a chode guy, am I
But
right?
the most important thing is.
Marco's
is
getting anxious. There's something happening to his
keeping
left.
Our teachers, and that might mean elevating
There
their
is.
salary as well.
He's openly staring at
But
somebody
there
over
are
there.
always ways of solving problems.
He's probably just trying to
and it
figure out
takes
Fred's tie.
Putting your heads together. Thank you.
Thank you.
He doesn't know what to do with his hands. That's for sure.
Okay, seeing nobody else, we'll close this part.
He's
of
just
the-
locked in an uncomfortable stare with George Russell.
Oh, back for a second
two.
time.
One quick issue, if I may.
Look,
I
he's
sat down
having a
to-
staring contest with George Russell.
For the peddlers, amending the peddlers issue, I want to say that in Boston and all the large cities, people go there and they love going to see the different peddlers and what they have. And that's part of going there, the day of walking around. That's part of the enjoyment. And I think that would be good for Worcester. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to have to go all the way to
residents
Times
on the Zoom
Square to buy
platform,
rap
so we
CDs.
have first Eric Stratton, try to meet the resident now.
Hi, are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, Eric.
Worcester, Massachusetts, and Eric Stratton.
He claimed to
I
come
am
out
calling
firing
in regards to
tonight.
10B. I have issues with this for a number of reasons, but one is simply the fact that the Worcester Police Department has paid out millions in lawsuits over the years. Just this past January, I believe they settled a civil suit for $272,000. To me, it is outrageous that we are approving this body camera stipend when their own bad actions have led to a Department of Justice investigation to the city of Worcester's police department. I'm not saying
We
don't
should pay
work
him to get
hard,
investigated.
but I am saying that I think that we need this body camera program, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they should get a stipend on top of that for doing things that they should be doing already and for the fact that they've had bad behavior in the past. I think it's very disingenuous that this was held at the January 31st meeting, if I recall correctly. And I think it's inappropriate that there seems to have been a lot of work to delay, and stall any type of public discussion about this issue prior to statements coming out saying, well, we just have to do it. If these are my tax dollars at work, I would much rather see these, one, going to the schools and funding our teachers who deserve to have a contract, and two, that our police need to behave appropriately. If they are intending to do the work, great. Let's give them a stipend after they've shown that they can do it without causing any more damage. There's a lot of loss of trust with our city police department. I know one of the previous speakers said that, they're doing extra work, pay them. We have the body camera coming because they are not doing their work appropriately.
Oh,
This is
shit.
necessary
Take that,
oversight
Fred.
for a department
Tiny
that
tie
clearly
bitch.
does not behave in a way that we would expect them to do.
Time to
for
draw
something
your
like the
shades,
city of
Eric.
Portland. Thank you.
Hope you like seeing the cutthroat gesture.
Mr. Mayor, that's the last speaker I can identify who's raised their hand.
Okay. So in this part of the meeting, we're
Good
gonna
job,
go to
Eric.
the Hearings and orders.
Yeah,
We
nice
have
job. man.
7A and 7B.
Not that
We
it's going to
also
matter,
have,
but nice job.
No.
We appreciate the effort.
Yes. Good on you.
which is National Grid and Verizon for co-location.
Eric.
Well done.
Great job, dude.
So we have 7A and 7B. We have Institute Road.
Love to hear it.
and
We
the
hate
condo
this for you.
location
This
also
is
on Haviland
going to be a
Street.
lot of trouble for
The
you.
motion is to open the hearing. Those in
No, that was
favor,
great.
opposed, so voted. Anybody opposed to these items?
Anytime you can just throw into stark relief their ridiculousness of
Those in favor, opposed, so
this
voted.
item
Motion
and
to adopt.
the mayor going on the radio being like, "Well, we have to do it.
You have petitions. Petition
Yeah.
3 minutes for
We
first
have to
time
do it
public
'cause
hearing on
they
the
said so.
agenda.
We're obligated to pay them for their work,
7D,
yet teachers don't make
parking.
shit for nothing."
Those in
So
favor, opposed, so ordered. 7
Interesting,
and
no Rick
8A,
Cipro tonight, huh?
Set a hearing for May
Mm.
9th, 2023.
Well, he just knows it's
6:30
gonna pass,
PM.
so.
All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Then we had Roxanne, who just spoke on the hawkers and peddlers license, and the amount to allow for the sale of handmade items in the city's downtown as well as parks. Councilor King.
I want to
Thank
get
you,
a
Mr.
I want to
Chairman.
get a license to sell
Before I begin, I
handmade
just wanna ask
ninja
what's the motion
stars.
on the floor pertaining to this matter.
This will go to the city manager.
What's the motion? Just an information request or?
Yeah, come back with, the motion would be to, in regards to the audience and to see whether we come back with a proposed amendment, and if it is, then we can send that to committee, probably MO, I would think. But,
I just had a couple of quick questions to the chair.
Why is Joe
the
trying to get him to not ask a
administration.
question?
I'm just
Because Joe doesn't know where what
shed
happens.
some light on kind of the strategy or the philosophy behind some of these restrictions of access on the common with regards to movement and things of that nature. Through the chair.
Mr. Manager?
Through the chair to the council, I'm not
Oh, we got a full lineup tonight.
kind of familiar with what those
Looks like
restrictions
it.
are.
Everyone in the chamber. See,
at that
there's the
little
tie
tie.
bill.
Presented some restrictions and some concerns.
Look at it.
related to
How tiny it is.
vendor spacing across the city and many municipal spaces.
Yenny, I'll try
So
again. It
looking
wasn't
at an
working
effort into looking
earlier.
into that, and I, in this floor, stood up and communicated that we understand that we need to improve our processes as a city. And I'm fully committed to working on that. I have my chief of staff directly working on that, and the cultural development officer as well. But I'm not exactly.
It's not letting me
in
turn
terms
them
of what
on.
these challenges may be, but as part of what we're looking at the process for the city and all the vendors and access, etc., we want to be a city that's friendly to business, and especially
Yeah,
businesses
unfortunately,
like
I
this,
cannot
and
right
using
now
our spaces and our parks. So we want to make sure that we
because
provide ordinances and policies that adhere to that.
Facebook is
Thank you,
stupid, and
Mr.
so is every
Chairman. I
website.
appreciate your recommendation, Mr. Mayor. I certainly think it's on point. My only motion that I would like to make, independent of that, is that the administration work with Roxanne Jackson and the folks who testified today, some of whom we know who they are in the interim. We know that with respect to ordinances and, all of these matters, there's some systemic structural, procedural, bureaucratic processes that must take place. And, small businesses are flourishing. We know the importance of them. I want to support them 1,000%. And it goes along the line of some of the conversations we had last week around, access to parks and things of that nature. And again, appreciate the mayor's
Speaking of getting
motion.
signatures,
We try to open things
Joanna
up. I'd
Hampton
like to sign
Dance
on to that.
is on the ballot.
But in the
Everybody
interim,
got her
we can do
signatures.
something on behalf of the folks
Got word
who are
yesterday.
struggling now. Perhaps there's a meeting with the stakeholders that be, we can resolve some of these matters while the possible amendments of ordinances are pending. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
As innocuous as
Council
this
Russell, public,
seems,
Council Florio.
this item about opening
Chairman,
things up for vendors
My concern is also
could end up
that
being
I
the
heard from
biggest
resident,
conversation of the year.
she filed this petition, but
Interesting.
When
my
we
concern
started
is
talking
that
about food
the
trucks in Worcester,
things that she
I mean,
brought
we
up to me
spent
too about
weeks listening to
some of
Phil
the
Palmieri
areas
talk about
that
if we allowed hot dog
person
vendors in the city of
is
Worcester,
trying
like
to
the
make
sole
a living
proprietor
at,
and the 111 Chop House would
city
go to
resident
business.
versus,
And there was no sense of irony at all. That like, are you really comparing like $100 steak to a $2 hot dog on the side of the road? Like,
Polar Park, DCU Center.
George Russell about to follow it up.
Where there would be an awful lot of foot traffic. So I would wish that the administration, through you, Mr. Chairman, would take a look at those specifics. Of course, I'm not suggesting that
If we have food trucks, how is Polar Park going to sell a $35 lobster roll?
Congrats, Joanna. Thanks for jumping in the comments tonight too. It's great to see you.
No more than we have food trucks set up right in front of restaurants.
there we go.
But yet it is something that should be looked at. And Mr. Chairman, my concern too is, and I'll just throw this out there for the manager to put this into his thinking process, is that summer is here. It's almost in full swing. And this.
Wow, brilliant, George.
Comes back and it's
40 degrees and raining outside, but yeah, thanks, Mr. Weatherman.
Folks like this resident won't have that season of income. So I think that we need.
Wow,
to
I do have
something
chairception.
not
This is
only
pretty
in the way
incredible.
of an ordinance, but also in the short term, ways to try and open up these kinds of opportunities for folks, and to take a look at some of our, especially the administration.
It would be really cool to go into that room and walk up to that keyboard under the TV and just pull up stickdeath.com. Watch a couple classics.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah, why not?
Council Florio.
Thank you. As someone who loves going to different cities.
Her glass is
and
getting bigger every
going
week.
to
Candies.
different vendors
Look, they're just
and
like,
It's a power
this
move.
city, unique and important. I think this is a really timely and a very good item here from Roxanne. One of the things that I think is important is that one of the things that she emphasized was, and I want to keep this in perspective, is handmade items. This is somebody, and I don't know what Roxanne makes, but I'm just saying, Roxanne makes items that are handmade, that are unique to her. She's a city resident. She lives in the city. So if someone comes here visiting the DCU or Polar Park, they say, what's unique about Worcester? Oh, look at this vendor here, lives in Worcester and makes a unique
Are you
item.
fucking kidding me?
That I think
Jesus
is something that we should be very proud of.
Christ.
And I think it's a great opportunity to push in and support our homegrown vendors. And for some, if she's making something unique and different and handmade, I'm sure they're not selling that in Polar Park, or they're not selling that at DCU Center. I
They might.
understand the competition.
They might. That place is pretty
cost, and
rickety.
I totally respect that people that have stores don't want anybody to be in competition. They pay money for their rent. And
It's sort of like, I don't mean to hyperbolize here, but it's a crime against God that anyone is made to hear this woman speak
so it
on a
doesn't
weekly
have,
basis.
competition. But I think this is
That's a
something
very
that
good
is
question.
timely, especially as my colleague said.
Because they think
that
they can
will
score
be,
points on it now.
We're going into the craft season. You know,
There's
the
a craft
outdoor
season.
It's craft season. Time for craft season.
Huh.
Time for
Oh,
tuxedos with
wow.
no reason.
Yes, I want to definitely agree. You know, if you have an opportunity to go to other areas, other communities, again, we're one of the largest refugee resettlement cities. And I think that one of the things that people do, if you ever go, I appreciate seeing the hustle, right? Like people are out there. I was just in Puerto Rico, and after the concert, you have people with coolers selling water, soda,
I love craft
medallions.
season.
Like they were
My favorite
never mind
season.
liquor license. It was all under control. I'm not saying that that's what we should do.
I love to
Defend
go-
craft season with your life.
I love to go up to
But you
Vermont and go craft
people,
creeping.
Like people are selling oranges, people are selling water on the cold days. You rarely
Creepy
see
craft call.
panhandlers because what you do see is people selling items. You see people selling candy. You see people selling flowers. You see people selling water on hot days.
I like truck month.
And I appreciate everybody got like a hustle. And so
I like
isn't that
Honda
amazing
days.
when you think about that
Honda
when
days are
they're
great.
struggling regarding a job because of language, when they're struggling because they're waiting for their work ID number, which is amazing.
I love that the Worcester City Council in 2023 is reinventing Bronze Age bartering as an economic model for the future.
We should have
This is
an
where we're
open air
at.
market. That,
Yeah, it's really wild. There's people out there that got rugs, and you bring a little piece of silver, and you can exchange it for a rug, and then you have a rug in your home.
Yeah.
Have to raise money in order to process their work ID. And so when you have
Mo
people
Bergman
out
about to
there,
get up and explain the
very,
Silk
very
Road.
common that people are out there, you know, peddling goods, you know, doing, you know, good, and that's work. That's honorable work. And imagine,
Hear
you
ye,
know,
hear ye.
so
Buy my
when I go out,
wares.
I rarely ever see. I was in Antigua, Guatemala, and
And thus spices flow through the Ottoman Empire.
and there were people like in wheelchairs. and
Who will
sitting
buy
and
my
physical
hats?
security.
Hats for
But
sale.
outside of that, like young people, older people, they were all like doing their crafts and their things. And
Because
even
it's craft
when
season.
they have, they have days in the common, just like we have, where they have licensed people come in and do their tables.
spice must
Sean
flow.
Rose isn't running, so I don't know why you got that
You know,
email.
water and soda and candy and whatever crafts. So I think we have to start looking at
Yeah, what the
being
hell?
creative and how we allow people to make money, how we allow people to work.
Is
One
your
of the
mail
things that I'm very
massively
proud of that
delayed
I
by
had an
2 years?
opportunity to do was work with the mayor on the urban agricultural ordinance, and that
Get
was, you
dejected
know,
Kate sad because nobody's buying her crafts.
allow people to be able to raise, you know, whatever it is, you know, tomatoes or whatever.
I
be
could
able
just
to-
set up my
we
laptop
have
on the
to be able
common and
to
sell
kind
my
of
crafts from there.
allow
I
people
hate
to
craft
become
season.
economically stable.
Nobody goes on the laptop.
And I think this is a really good opportunity. And we think about, we're very worried about the brick and mortar. They're not going to be selling the same thing. They're not selling the same thing. I think it's like Council Colorio said, that many of them are crafts, or if it's a hot day that people
This
are
is
out
fucking
there
torture.
Hey, they gotta do something.
different than
You gotta
people
keep us
selling
around at
Um,
midnight somehow.
I think this is a really good opportunity. We
Let's
need
bring
to
up
think
this
about
my
it. And I
graphic.
don't know, it brings vibrancy whenever I
This is the
go.
current
It
slate
brings
of
vibrancy to
at-large
community. I see it all around. You go into New York City,
council
you go into
candidates.
other countries. This is something
You
that
see, we got Christian King up at the top. We got 2 blank spaces.
really welcoming.
And then we have Johanna,
and we're
and then we have
growing,
Mady, and we have Bill Coleman, and another blank space, and then Domenica, and then a huge, like a gigantic, glaring blank space.
No candidate.
We need to be creative. We need to be less worried
No, I
about,
think it's. I
you
think
know,
this is
the ballpark,
interesting when
they're
you
gonna
look
be
you look
okay.
down this
Some
list.
of these other brick and mortars, larger, they're gonna be all right.
I mean,
They're not
Johanna's
losing
my
much
number
money.
one
They're charging significant amount
vote on
there
that
overhead
one.
when they're,
She's
you
taking
know,
the
and if
first slot.
somebody's out there selling flowers
Then
or whatever
Mady,
have you,
Domenica,
you know, there's ways
2,
to be able to kind of really support people.
probably
and
Christian.
especially if people have
Maybe,
craft
hey,
items.
maybe
Some
I'll
of them
fuck around and
have
vote for
that
Guillermo
particular
Creamer.
type of item. So I
Huh?
would definitely support
Right?
that.
Go nuts.
Thank you.
Anybody else think about that?
It's better than most
Thank
votes.
you. So we will send that to the manager along with Councilor
It's a good. I think it's a good
Change motion.
It's good to see. Like I said, it's good to see
Look
not
at the
having to be
history, I
like
think. Look at the history how this was
About the
created.
timing, Mr.
biting the
Timing,
bullet
yep,
to
okay.
to avoid voting for the shittiest people and voting for the second shittiest people. But
Right. Yeah.
good choices.
There are
There's actually legit good choices.
There's legit good choices. It's crazy.
4A, which is
Now,
vote
District
to send
1,
the,
I have no fucking
zone
clue what I'm going
district
to do
wholly
because
encompass the property located
we
at
got a villain
105
named
Armory Street.
Jenny.
Map amendment.
I'm trying to do everything I can to destroy her political career.
Refer to the planning board.
As is tradition.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough.
Councilor Bergman?
Yes.
Councilor Calorio?
Yes.
Councilor G.A.?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson?
Yes.
Councilor Nguyen?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera?
Yes.
Councilor Rose?
Yeah, maybe
Councilor
you know what?
Russell?
Oh, let's see. Let's see
Councilor
if we
Yes.
can.
Mayor
If
Pettit?
Guillermo comes on the show,
Yes.
then maybe I'll
Next
vote for
is,
him,
refer
and
to
that's what
standard
that'll be
green
my
traffic
decision.
Parking, transmitting information, communication,
I wanna-
integrating safety.
I'm gonna hold my
improved
vote
streets improvement,
hostage, even though I really want to
Linking
vote for him. I'm gonna hold it hostage
construction
until he
program.
comes back on the show.
So Ms. Raleigh, just want to say great job, and I know this is. We've been waiting for something this for a long time, and the city deserves this. I know this is the first step to a longer plan, but much appreciated. I know this affected Council Haji I's district, Council Haji.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, this is emotional for me because I want to bring in the spirit and memory of Candace, the 5-year-old who was killed on Stafford Street and her mom severely injured. And I want to do so because I spoke to Asha, her mom, as I have for the past year today, to just give her the news that this was happening in huge part, even though it shouldn't have taken the death of a child or the injury of one of our residents to spur these changes. I think, for me at least, personally, as a mother, as a resident, as a district councilor, I want to credit Candace for driving us to do something that should have been done a long time ago. And I want to give my compliments to Commissioner Rowley and his team, very talented team, very progressive thinking, very forward thinking. Thank you, Mr. Manager, for pushing these projects as well. I just want to share something real quick that Asha asked me to both personally thank Mr. Rowley, but also, say to the City Council. Her direct quote to me this afternoon when I spoke to her was, no mother, no father, no brother should go through what we did. And that is true. And that is what I think the vision that Mr. Rowley and his team are proposing forward is beyond complete streets, is beyond Vision Zero. It's about making sure that 7 traffic deaths and fatalities in the city of Worcester should not be acceptable to anyone. That's only in the last year. That doesn't even count the near misses. It doesn't count folks with disabilities that have almost been killed. It doesn't count for those that have no transportation. And so I am fully behind your vision, Mr. Rowley. I am fully behind your vision, Mr. Manager. I just want to make sure that we're not stopping here and that we truly implement Vision Zero in the way that it will bring traffic and road safety and justice to all
This
of our
is who
residents.
Jose Rivera thinks he's going to
I
be.
want to say a special
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
considering Street, a street that also deserves a lot of redesign. And I know that we're looking really hard to bring in extra resources.
By running on a
So
platform
I'm
of,
just
I have
really
no
thrilled to
politics.
see such a talented team
By running on a trampoline on Trish Twitter.
necessary vision for integrating
If anybody hasn't
safety,
seen that
but
yet,
also
I'm going to share that.
road justice for all of our residents. So thank you,
Please,
Mr. Rowley, and your team for
please do
working
yourself a
so
favor
hard
and watch
at
this.
And we will hold ceremony for Candace. We'll invite the community back.
Wait, I
as
don't
we
know if I've
did
seen
for our,
this.
Safety audit, and I hope the whole council will come and meet her family, and hopefully we will never have to do this again.
One for the
any other
the Nico
children
stands.
and residents of our city. Thank you.
I was talking to Mr. Scott outside of City Hall tonight, and he was telling me about
Mr.
traffic
Chairman,
not stopping for him
as
while he's trying to
you
cross
had
the
just
street outside of
indicated,
City Hall.
in the opening
And Nico
remarks on
pulled out
this
in the
item,
middle of Franklin
this is
Street
a
in his truck
item
to
that
block
I
traffic
think
so that
probably
Mr.
every
Scott could get
counselor
across the
has
street in his walker
on,
without getting run over.
The
Hell
agenda
yeah.
from, I know, working
That's another
with
Nico
Council
Suave for you.
Rose and talking about the Burncoat
Look at this
Street
guy.
area from one end of
We
Burncoat
stand.
Street to the other. and
Our
all
Clerk
of the
King.
accidents up in the Burncoat Street area.
This is a
We've
real
been
tweet, huh?
talking about Grove Street,
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
since I got elected. Grove Street is a complete nightmare. And, you know,
Can somebody just
as
clip her
we
saying
talk
Grove Street is a
about
complete nightmare?
making the streets really safer in the city
And then
of
cut
Worcester,
to like any summer
we've
concert
gone
at
through
Ralph's.
the plan of, having the police department look at
I
the
can't stop
safety
watching this
issues
guy do
all
flips on the
around our
trampoline.
schools. And I think now with Mr. Raleigh heading up this
This is
department,
like a Righteous Gemstones
to
bit.
see this report come through this past week was
This is honestly funnier than
really,
any sort of satire possibly could be.
it was really enlightening to say that we are finally getting to a point that we're able
Holy
to look
shit.
at all of these streets that
It's really
for so
amazing.
long really are
Liking
there's a
and
real
bookmarking.
safety issue there. So I too just want to say thank you to Mr. Raleigh and his team, and certainly to the city manager, because we all know on this council that nothing gets done without the council working with the city manager and the administration. But again, I know the folks on Grove Street
99.9% of the
and
things get
folks
done
on
without the city
Burncoat
council.
Street,
Yes. Yeah, in defiance in many ways of the city council.
If they're made to, in direct defiance of the city council. Yeah. Better left unsaid, but they're gonna do it.
A little bit of my thunder there, but on behalf of the residents of District 1 on Holden Street,
man.
Grove Street, Burncoat Street, we just all want to thank you and your team, Mr. Raleigh, and also you, the city manager. These have been, I mean, if we look back in our history of orders, I think that I personally, and Councilor Carlson, and the other areas that we share, and even some of our at-large councils who are getting all of these calls, and of course, Councilor Clorio, who oversees the traffic and parking. There are dozens and dozens and dozens of requests and reports and concern related to these two streets, and I'm just really thankful that this is being done, on my way out. Because this is one of those things that I never thought would be done. It was one of those things where you hear all the time when you've been here for a couple terms, the same recycled orders, and someone's like, oh, I put that on 4 years ago. I put that on 2 years ago. It's going to be nice for this to be done and for nobody to have to worry about putting this on. I think, again, thank you, Mr. Raleigh, for all your efforts in this. And, Councilor Clorio and I were laughing a little bit earlier. We were like, it's just such a different.
Imagine them laughing together. Sean Rose and Donna Clorio laughing together.
Like in years past, when you put
It's
something
like
on, you
a
genuinely
scene
feel
from
like
a
it's
Charlie
going to be looked
Kaufman
at.
movie.
You genuinely feel like it's going to be analyzed and assessed, and there's great evidence of that here tonight. So thank you to you and your team, Mr. Raleigh, again to you, Mr. City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Clorio.
Thank you. So as the chair of parking and traffic, let me say that I want to first of all thank the city manager for putting together the
This is like watching
Department of,
Synecdoche, New
Transportation
York,
and
when
Mobility.
she
And
stands
second
to
of
speak.
all, I want to thank Mr. Raleigh for his incredible professionalism in this department. It is like I've shared with Councilor Rose earlier, it's night and day. And when I say that, I've been doing this, I'm on my 4th year of traffic and parking. And I have to say that every single week we deal with something that has to do with speeding. And we recycle these items that some people come and they say, we've been standing here for a year, 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, and we have the same problem. If you could have, I know none of you would want to sit through a 4-hour traffic and parking meeting like we did last week, my colleagues here. We sat through 4 hours of traffic and parking. And let me tell you, guess what we did that
Nothing.
hasn't been done
We
in
did
the
nothing.
past? We got things
Nothing.
done.
Well,
We got
okay.
things done. We
politely asked the cops to do something they subsequently ignored.
And they asked for more money.
We worked in cooperation with DOT, and we made that traffic calming after the young boy got hit by the car getting off the bus a couple of years ago. So we've worked in all these things, and when we go to the department now and say, what is your recommendation? In the past, the recommendation would be, oh, we recommend blah, blah, blah. It was a 1-sentence thing. Now, if you look at our recommendations, Some of them are 2 pages long with facts, with studies, with questions, with solutions. And to me, it's and I shared this with Mr. Raleigh last meeting. I said, there's no comparison. We are working in such an incredible way to resolve the problems of people in the safety issues. And let
If
me
you have
tell you,
no idea what's
traffic
happening, why would you
is
speak?
Very, very important
You
in
know?
the city. Stop signs are important. Blinking lights are important. This what makes the quality of life in Worcester. So I am very proud to say that we've done a great job on my committee this year. And
This is
one
a
of my
campaign
goals,
video
and
for her
we
right
had,
now, right?
I think, I don't know if we had over 200 items and pending lists.
I think
My
we've done a
goal
very
is
good
by
job
the
this year. Maybe next year, a couple less kids get hit by cars.
and we are making our way towards resolving that, because that's what we want to do.
She has no
We
idea
want
what she's talking
them to have
about.
the opportunity to tell us about their neighborhood, to tell us about what's happening, and tell us about what can make it better. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Bergman, followed by Councilor King.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not going to belabor the compliments, but they're well deserved. And thank Mr. Raleigh for an excellent report. Thank the manager for obviously being interested or motivated to make sure that this was a priority for Mr. Raleigh and his new department. I'll also say that the time I spent on traffic and parking, I also agree with what my colleague Councilor Clorio said, that some of these items seem to have repeated themselves over and over again. I think all of us who've been on the council a number of years recognize. I'm looking at the report and I see Hurd Street. I mean, Hurd Street has probably been the subject of dozens and dozens of recommendations, or actually inquiries about what can be recommended. The other thing I would say, and this takes nothing away from the excellence of the report, is there were 3 things I did not see.
When I first got my license, I used to drive so fucking fast over Hurd Street.
One of which is a question I have regarding this. So that was something we implemented a few years ago.
Oh, so you're
I
part of the
noticed on a couple
problem.
of streets that I drove by over the last week. They were not installed yet. I know last year they weren't installed, I've been told, till late in the season. The kids are going to be out of school next month. We all know the traffic is heavy, whether the children are in or out of school. And I just, the understanding and the expectation was that they'd be installed in the springtime and removed in the fall. And it's kind of a disservice, or runs contrary to what we intended if they don't get installed till much later in the summer. So I hope that could be looked at. The second question I would have is that there have been a number of orders in the past, and I hope, again, Mr. Raleigh's team can take a look at this in the future, regarding intersections that don't line up. And those are dangerous intersections. I can think of 2 off the top of my head. I think of Southbridge Street and Cambridge Street. When
Are you
coming down
kidding me?
Cambridge to Southbridge, the lights just don't line up when you take your life in your own hand. The other one is Mill Street and Chandler Street. And I know there's been orders in the past to kind of get an inventory of those intersections that don't seem to line up. I know there was also one in the street, escapes me for the moment, in front of the Bancroft School.
Yeah, there's nothing
There are a number of those, so I
happening
hope that can
here.
be addressed.
This is literally just watching somebody fucking talk.
Like, besides the fact that the intersection in front of the Bancroft School, in front of the Unitarian Church, has been massively overhauled in the last like 2 years.
Hopefully in the future, there'll be more reports with more.
So I guess the point is that
We all know
there
traffic is
was
heavy in the
already
city and
working.
getting heavy.
What are you complaining about? The system already works.
Thank you. Councilor King.
They're not saying anything. Like, they're not
literally saying nothing.
It's like,
Chairman,
doesn't mean
I just
anything.
wanted to begin by saying, oh, Mr. Raleigh, lots of kudos today. And I think back to the first walk we did over in the Main South area.
Build that again?
It became very apparent that
Oh no.
Under your direction, there would certainly be a breath of fresh air in
There you
regards to how responsive we are to these particular matters.
I can't
That
take
being
it.
said, we as a body, our job is
You know what?
to cajole.
Can we turn down the volume on Christian and raise the volume on Bill so we can all just listen to the birds behind him?
Yeah, I'm getting an echo. I don't know. Are you guys getting an echo?
Yeah, it came when Bill came back on.
And I want
Does this suck? I'm sorry.
That's fine. It was only for a second.
And I want to also recognize our district
Maybe it's
councilors,
happening.
all the work that they've done.
Who
over the
cares?
years,
We're not saying anything. They're not saying anything. Who gives a shit?
The birds are saying something.
A number of districts to serious accidents, to trying to do the best we can. I do think we still need and require some sort of overall master plan, and my understanding that's in the works.
It is kind of appropriate after writing all
That's
day about the
also
uselessness of the city
this is really
council
an indication.
to be watching
This
this.
is what happens.
It's like,
when leadership meets
how do you describe
potential,
that
and
something
when
is so useless, right?
it moves things forward, Mr. Chairman.
You
So
kind of
I
have to
just
see it to believe it.
that's very much appreciated. I look forward to some of the many challenges that we have coming on board. We know we have a host of apartment buildings being built. It's going to require intersection between your department and our law enforcement traffic division, interplay with the manager, the mayor, the council, and the committee, of course. And we have a tremendous undertaking, but I think with intentional leadership, we will begin to navigate that. So then a kudo and a thank you.
Okay, did everybody, Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say,
Oh
again,
boy.
just in support of the words that the council have communicated tonight. When the creation of the
Yeah, Ben, unfortunately, this is still traffic.
the Department of Transportation and Mobility was created, the idea to create that was because we understood and knew that we need to consider the design and our analysis of our streets with a different perspective, with a different lens. And we wanted to create a department that had the right people with that perspective and really took in consideration all the orders that you've talked about for many, many years that have come forward, and all the challenges and every neighborhood meeting and concerns and speeding and speed humps, et cetera. I mean, there's been a lot of conversation about transportation in totality, and also the people that we've lost in the city. All of that took in consideration developing this department, and I want to know.
And of course, the deaths.
To Jay Fink of the Department of Public Works, because Steve Raleigh can't do what he does without Jay Fink and their support and working in conjunction. And so it's a collective effort that all of us.
This is one of those times where I'm reminded that like all the things that I love about Worcester are all things that happen in spite of the city council and administration.
Dude, it's so true. They do nothing but get in the way of what makes the city cool.
Yeah.
They're actively hostile to it.
There's been conversations about signals in our community, in this floor as well. There's been conversation about speed humps, about reducing.
I would genuinely be curious in a list of things that like are only awesome because the council exists.
We've invested as part of the support of the council.
Like right now, what is Eric Batista saying? Challenge, right? Try to tell me.
That analysis and the ability
There have been conversations. Okay, thank you.
and at that level to provide better results, and that's why we're able to respond with more comprehensive information at the Traffic and Parking Committee. So I just give kudos to the team for being able to do that, but also I give kudos to all of you as a city council for supporting this effort.
This is like when you interview a baseball player after the winning game, and they're just like, "Yeah, it's all because of the team and like how good we play together," and like they're not saying anything at all.
Okay, so we'll send that.
We just watched the game. We know that.
Traffic and parking. Those in favor?
You fixed one street,
Yeah, the police department.
or you plan to.
They can be here too. Take that out of water here.
Okay.
Body cams.
All right, here we go. This should be
So
fun.
let's do 9.12A and do 10B after that. Body cameras. So 9.12A, transmit information communication over the police cadet program that will impact the representation and demographics of represented groups within the police workforce. This is going to go to committee, public safety.
I didn't read this report. I really have no idea what it's about.
By doing so, Councilor Rivera, you had your hand up too, or Councilor King? Councilor King, go ahead.
Yeah, just thank you for this report. I think one of the things that I'd
Hi,
like
Nico.
to see moving forward is one of the things that we
Gratuitous
wanted to
Nico
do,
shot.
I'd love to be able to see a more
Surprised Nico.
addition into this curriculum. Remember that we're looking at a system that initially was created like many systems. That's not the only one. The medical system, the educational system, Number one, they weren't created for women in mind, and they weren't
Probably
created
still
with,
Eric Batista.
Yeah, the failure of the administration to meet reasonable demands,
the institution of
like it should be.
safety was to address the issue of runaway slaves. So when we look at these institutions, we want to be able to kind of really look at, the work that's being done regarding DEI. I think that would be one, and also like creating infinity circles, because one of the things that we want to do is, we've heard
We're
stories
getting
of
Avengers. We're having Avengers.
having females come into an academy where it's predominantly males, or having people that might be transgender or non-binary or communities of color.
And then they go and date
It's not
Rosie
easy.
O'Donnell, and it's the whole thing.
Already kind of in place. So I'd love to be able to kind of see some of that added into that curriculum. Also, I could be wrong, but I didn't see the current demographic. I know that we have 5, but out of those 5, what the demographic, how many are female, how many are males, how many are from BIPOC community, and not. So I don't know through the chair to the city manager if that's something that I know that's 5, and I would like to see the demographic of that currently.
Lieutenant Murphy.
If we have non-binary police officers, how are they supposed to post online about drag shows at the library?
There are 2 females and 3 people of color. I can confirm that. I don't have it in front of me. There's actually one outside. I can probably ask and get you the answer in a couple minutes.
Actually, one what outside?
That's great. I mean, that's
one of them.
I think I'd love to be able to continue to, one of the things is to be able to go to the chief and be able to say, Chief, what are some of the populations that you're looking to recruit in this round? What are you looking, what is your need on your force? What are some of the languages on your force? And then being very purposeful. I'm hoping that this will continue. I'm hoping that this will expand. I know that.
Isn't that like why he
budget-wise,
is
we may
like in
not
the
be in that
position that he's in, is
right
because
now,
he's
but I'm
one of the
hoping
few cops that actually
can
lives in the
expand the
city.
cadet program. I'm hoping that we can not only
He
continue to
runs
expand
cover
it
for
and
them.
being able to talk with the leadership of the police and be able to say, I would love to see females that speak this language. I would love to see.
You know what I think we need more of on the police department? Reactionary psychos.
Or transgender. I would love to see more people from this community, whatever that is, because I think that that's going to be really important, because that's the buildup that we want to have, and that was the whole
Hey, and
purpose of that
they'll
program.
loudly
I'm very
tell you
excited
why.
to see them. I'm always excited to be able to talk with them. I really feel that when I've talked to them, it really feels like the police has really kind of embraced them, and I really want to thank the police force for that, because I don't think they're just kind of like, oh, like young people, like, is this something? I really feel that the police has really embraced
Sorry,
this
George
program.
Deception. You already said it.
It's new, so I understand that there's going to be always tweaks, but I think one of the most important things is that I feel like these young people feel respected, feel like they've kind of been brought into the family, so to speak, and I really appreciate that, because I think that's a really important thing for them as they move forward and they decide that that's something they want to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor King, followed by Councilor Rose.
Support is such an
Thank you, Mr.
interesting word
Chairman.
here, Brian.
I wanted to just begin by acknowledging the work that Sergeant Leto did on this cadet
The
program.
one you're looking for starts with the same letters, but ends
He
differently.
certainly was carrying a lot of the responsibility, a lot of the weight. It was certainly shared. My last conversations with Sergeant Leto, along with the Black Families Together group, was pertaining to this very program, Mr. Chairman. And the way Sergeant Leto saw it was that if you increase the diversity of the force,
I've just been tagging the
it'll
DOJ in
improve
all of our
relations and
Instagram
improve
stories.
engagements with
Hope that's
communities of
helping.
color and communities who are disenfranchised. And I think that's exactly right. I think that, this particular program, there's a lot of things that go on here, trainings, they go to operation divisions, court, Union Station, substations, mountain unit, service division, outreach, emergency communications, all of those things. And I think they're all important, Mr. Chairman. I also agree there needs to be an equity lens here. I think for young folks and folks who we're trying to bring into this program need to understand the realities of unconscious bias, what happens when that
That's awesome, Joanna.
meets or intersects with authority. What does it mean? I participated in the civilian police academy. And I know firsthand how those biases impact decision making, because I made a lot of wrong decisions, Mr. Chairman.
I tried
as it
to
relates
do the Citizens Police
simulation
Academy,
and other
but
things.
they kept getting mad
So
at me
this
for
is
trying to do sound
certainly
effects
a
the whole time.
challenge.
And they're
Pew,
like,
pew, pew.
different thing.
The other thing I wanted to mention is one of the last things that Sergeant Leto shared with us was
They got mad at me because I kept going new boot
I'm trying
goofing.
to find my notes. I can't find them. But his intent, Mr.
They
Chairman,
didn't like my short
was
shorts.
as an additional phase to focus on getting more women recruited to law enforcement, in addition to people of color and things of that nature. But he was specifically stated to us that he wanted to also focus on diversifying the force by bringing more women on board. And he mentioned some of the challenges as relates to working in some of the schools with some of the students based on their demographics. There was less receptivity by some of the Black students as opposed to some of the other folks who are termed minority or people of color. And I think the demographics matter. And I think I'd like to see is sort of an understanding, Mr. Chairman, by way of an order of what strategic shifts are going to be put in place to continue to expand. This is a good program. Again, a great job being done here. As mentioned to Mr. Raleigh, right? Our job is to the best of our ability, encourage and cajole continued improvement. That will be my order. And
what have I missed?
I want to thank Sergeant Leto, Mr.
Reinforcing
Chairman.
the facade
I
that
know
police
was
departments can
everywhere.
be reformed
Schools, it was in
through
our
a
churches,
diversity,
communities, at our
equity,
events.
inclusion lens.
It has to be a tremendous hole to fill. That being said, I'm glad that this is being
Donna
bumped back
rambled
up again to
for a little
our
bit.
attention. We know it's at the attention of law enforcement as an ongoing.
Fred Nathan wore a tiny little tie.
This is much appreciated, and hopefully there will be a dynamic discussion
about
in
it.
committee regarding some specificity as relates to the work being done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we have Councilor Rose, followed by Councilor Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank the police department for this report. When I read this report, it just screams to me everything about what Derek was excited about. My last meeting with him, we were having breakfast, and I was done with mine, and he was just talking.
Sorry you're
about
feeling
this.
bad. You need to get better
We have this,
soon.
we have these
Yeah, I hope you
numbers,
feel better.
and this is what we're doing. This is where I'm going, and this is kind of where we're headed. And I think that his compassion and care and genuine love for the city and diversifying the department and the cadet program is really second to none. And I think that as this program evolves, we should keep his spirit very much in mind, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to have the administration in collaboration with the leadership of the Worcester Police Department explore naming this program, Mr. Chairman, the Sergeant Derek Leto Cadet Program. I think anybody who goes through this program should feel his compassion, his care, and his energy related to diversifying the department and to really understand the tremendous efforts that he went through in doing this. And so that would be my motion, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have Councilor Toomey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I certainly echo my colleagues in their appreciation for Derek Leto, whose role and goal was paramount to ensuring that our police department reflected the citizenship of this community. He was incredibly engaging, loved having conversations with them about what they were doing. And he was truly one of our best advocates out in the community. And so I agree and support my colleague on his order. I do know that there are two officers that will be stepping in for this program. And so I would like to request.
I don't know that it's more than
when we
other
have our
cities.
meeting,
It's just
those
that
officers come when we talk about
Worcester
this,
is a
and
relatively
that we
sleepy
get an
city for one
is going to be
size,
and
so
what they
it's
both
stark
and how they're
how
going to
much the
accomplish it.
police
I really look forward to
like
talking with them further
get
and hopefully
funding, like get what they want
things,
and get
start
funding
getting a
to a
little bit
degree
more
that
solidified financially.
doesn't really match
we
up
can
with the
expand it.
reality
very
of.
much.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd agree with that. The lack of engagement overall makes it really, really easy for it to seem outsized, but I feel like the general public has no idea these conversations are even taking place.
So there's further the report to the Public Safety Committee, and also
Which is the way
approve the motion by
everybody
Councilor
wants it. It seems
Rose
like.
as amended.
That's the way the news
All those in
goes.
favor? Opposed, so ordered. Okay, we'll go to 10B since we're on the police department.
Oh boy.
Communication City Manager recommend the adoption of the salary ordinance amendment necessary to implement the city's recently completed collective bargaining agreement with Local 911. So this is.
Oh, this motherfucker's got something to say. Oh, you didn't get it all out on the radio the other day, Joe?
Oh my God, this is gonna be great.
Yeah, should be patronizing as hell.
Mayor Petty.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. And that's why I like my microphone. But anyways, thank you, Madam Chair. And just want to thank the city manager for his work on this. This is one of those things in that charter where we empower the city manager to do this, to enter into.
Is he mayor-splaining again?
Agreements with all the unions here. In the
It's
city.
weird how they came up with this explanation
And,
after the fact that
tried to
they
come up with an
empowered
agreement.
the
He's
city
done his
manager to do
job.
this. It was like a
Now
discussion
we need to
before, and
do
then all
our
of a sudden it's like, this isn't
We
a
empowered
discussion.
him. We told him to come up with an agreement. We don't know everything goes on, but I think it took a few months anyways to get this agreement done, if not longer, going back and forth. And we still have one union that's still out on this issue. So this is only one of the unions. So let's be very clear, this is a collective bargaining agreement. We all knew the body cameras, everybody wanted the body cameras, the public wanted it, protects the public, protects the police department. It's something that the community wanted, something you got
In
to put
2016.
funding away to the budget to make sure that we all
I
knew
would
you did that.
argue that in recent years that
so you
stance
could
has
fund this, so
changed.
you knew what parameters you were working under when you were in the collective bargaining process.
Do you guys remember? Was it the
So I
day
think,
after our
again,
last
we
show
empower
that
you to do this job. Now it's our
that
job is to vote this.
Batista went on the
It's one of those
radio
appropriate-
and said
appropriate
that,
things in
and
the
maybe
charter
Ben can back this up,
that,
that
that I know
no city
Fran will
councilor
go on
has
to
come up to
explain.
him and asked him to
Everybody's
ask
seen
for
his
an
memo
increase in the
paper,
education budget or the school
saying
budget
that we
for the
somewhat have an
city.
obligation to vote this when
That
we
no
provide
one
it
has
to
no one
you.
has
That's
ever
why
reached
we
out
need
to him and
executive
asked for
session
more
to
money for the
discuss
schools,
this.
and that he would
And,
address
again,
that if they
this
ever
is
did, but
part
they
of the
never
union
do.
process,
That's
collective bargaining
the craziest
issue.
fucking thing I ever heard in my
And,
life. It was
and I'll just say too, I
in
know-
regards
I
to
know some
this
comments made about the
item.
police department. Majority
That
of police
well, the
officers
police
there
asked
do
for
a
money
good
and
job.
nobody asked for the money for the schools. So
That's all you got to do is ask.
This has nothing to do with that. But you do a good
So I
job
guess
on this
ask everybody.
try to address
His
accountability
office's
issues,
phone
put
number
things
is
in place,
listed on the city
and this will
website.
also be an
And
accountability program.
send him postcards too.
So
That could be fun.
again, I will support this.
I hope
think,
the teachers
again,
union paid attention to that
obligation
because
is
clearly they're showing up at the wrong meetings. They should be
I
showing up on
guess-
Tuesday nights with a
we don't know
big
what's gonna
bucket
happen,
full of
say,
rotten
this-
tomatoes and just
I don't
start
know what
hurling them
happened,
across the
I'll
little fence
support
there.
it.
Yeah, I
Where does it
guess
go?
going
Pick 'em up
to
for Worcester.
his office
We've been around.
and
I've been around a
flooding
lot.
the hall
When we go to arbitration, we usually don't
not
win.
noticeable to him.
We've seen this recently, and the city manager has come out with this. So, and he's confident this is the right decision. I support the manager's work ethic on this, what he did to put this in place, and he's convinced me this is the right decision to go forward with. So I will support this. Thank you.
Councillor King.
When
Thank
do you
you,
think
Madam
Joe's
Chair.
going to realize he's going to lose the race this year?
I wanted to begin.
Think it'll come late or
by
The day
just
after the
kind of
election.
prefacing my statements
Just like this past fall.
to indicate
he
that
thought he was going to win until the day of.
have
I
no
really do
question
truly
about
believe
city
that.
manager's work ethic. I have to make sure that the narrative here is accurate. This is not about, for me, good cops or bad cops, Mr. Chairman. We've been pushing for body cameras. We have body cameras. We knew that there would have to be some negotiation with the union. We know, and I know from firsthand experience as a union elected official and leader, that change in working conditions is bargained to one degree or another.
I think people should stop speaking
And
about
what I'll
police
begin
unions in
by
the same
saying
breath as
is,
other unions. I
you
think
know,
I think it's
that
not productive
Mm-hmm.
and
Local 911
harmful.
did a good job. President Dan Gilbert and folks, I think, did a good job with their side of the negotiations, Mr. Chairman. I also believe that the Worcester Police Department, when we ultimately as a body called upon them, they delivered, Mr. Chairman. They stepped up. They put on their body cameras. Yeah, we stipend them initially. But when we were at a point where we had to implement, and the city manager made a decision, we're going to implement by a
They
date
fought it
certain.
for 5
It happened.
years. Tooth and nail fought it for
And we are all
5 years
thankful and
until it
better
got to the
for
point where
that.
they realized that they could hire more
And I'll also
police
say, Mr.
because of it
Chairman,
and get
there's
more
an old
money
saying,
because of it.
Mhm.
And then they
there
pushed
ain't
it
no
through
such
even though
thing
nobody
as a
wanted
free
it anymore.
lunch, right? No such thing. The fact of the matter is someone has to pay for every lunch. We know as elected officials that the cresting and expansion of government costs money. Well, who does it cost money? It costs the taxpayer money, Mr. Chairman, the people's money. And that results in one of two things: higher taxes, increase in interest in public debt. We know that the research shows that over 90+% of people in the country support police wearing body cameras. From the time I ran, long before
What is King doing?
Chief
I
Sergeant
don't- I can't figure
was
it out.
chief, police department verbalized and the unions verbalized they were on board.
Yeah, after
That's
they learned about
important.
the
We know
stipends. Come on,
92% of
dude.
people in this country support police wearing body cameras. However, only 55% report that they are willing to pay more in taxes towards that end, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, but 100%
So
of that
there's been a
50%
lot said
lives
and
in
done
Worcester.
about what this body is required to do, what we are legally obligated to do. And yes, there's a memorandum of understanding at play. From a union perspective, I know that memorandum of understanding will go in the next successor agreement, collective bargaining agreement, with further negotiation. I also know that the reality is that the city council does have discretion. Enforceability is in the event that the governing board or body decides to enter that joint use agreement, Mr. Chairman. Proposed CBA. Unlike the school committee gets right in, they roll up their sleeves, they're actively, and the chairman knows this, he's the chair of the school committee. They actively are in negotiations. We are not, we get briefings. And in those briefings, folks can share in those executive sessions whether or not folks are in support or not in support.
Yeah, Ben, have you heard anyone actually define what a change of work condition is by the
The
police
idea
department description?
that I'd like to dispel is pertains to contingency. If in fact this is a done deal, if in fact we have contingency, if in fact it's already involved in the council, I would motion to file this. What are we here for?
This is good.
What doesn't sit with me, Mr.
File
Chairman,
it and then
it's
it
disappointing the narrative
becomes
with
really
respect to
messy.
the authority
Mhm.
or the lack thereof that's implied of this body. There's no consent decree here. When we took a vote with respect to the Worcester School Committee and redistricting, there was a consent decree that required us to vote unanimously. We voted on that. We had no choice. Here, we are the governing body. The union and the administration have done their part. Our legal obligation is to vote it up or down, affirmative or not in the affirmative, Mr. Chairman. I'm disappointed about the pitting of teachers versus police officers, Mr. Chairman. We don't have any more dedicated servants of this city than those folks. It's very disappointing, Mr. Chairman. I think there's a bit of misleading.
I feel like Shaun was agreeing to that in a different way than Christian
mentioned. Discretion here. We do have the ability, as mentioned.
Sean just finished doing the math on how many seconds are left in his term and was agreeing with his own math.
Received the 8 votes.
Yes.
I've gone back and forth on this. Last week, I was leaning towards a yes. 10 minutes ago, I was leaning toward a yes. I went toward, I don't know, it's just been very difficult for me. It's been very difficult. Some of the concerns I have with respect to this is the fact that this is in perpetuity, Mr. Chairman. You'll hear tonight, you'll hear in the newspaper, this is only cost $25 a week. Well, it's going to cost us $2.5 million over the next 5 years and $5 million over the next 10 years is what I was told. That's a lot of money. That's the people's money, Mr. Chairman.
That's a lot of water bottles,
As
if you know what I mean.
There ain't no such thing as a free lunch. There have been arduous negotiations between the administration and Local 911, Mr. Chairman. And this is where
logically, I can't make any sense of the change in work
Challenge for me,
conditions.
once again,
If they're only mandated
is in
when dealing with the
respect
public, and you don't have an expectation
conscience.
of privacy when you're in public in Massachusetts, then
conscience.
nothing changes.
We are looking at a situation where this matter is negotiated in perpetuity. There's no end. There's no sunset clause. I've reiterated to the administration. I'll reiterate it now. That doesn't sit well with me. I also know that this, from the research and the things I've looked at.
Have they already
in
started paying the
Massachusetts,
stipends?
This is on the higher end of stipends.
Do we think?
I understand the argument, Mr. Chairman, that percentages versus stipend. And I think the city manager.
Yeah, I think they
looked into
did.
that
I think like
and feels as
650
though
was
this
the
is
first
best
round of money
way
to go out, and that's already gone out.
for the city,
I'm pretty
Mr.
sure.
Chairman. But again,
Yeah, the full
we do
stipend
not
starts
leave
with
bounding. It's
the
a
calendar year,
foundation for
or the
negotiations,
budget
and
calendar
we
year.
can, and I'm sure we will, fund this. As mentioned, I don't agree with reneging on an agreement when negotiation. I don't believe in negotiating in bad faith, but that's not what happens here. City manager, Local 911, both negotiating in free and good faith. There's no reneging on an agreement. We are the governing body. It's a separate process, Mr. Chairman. It's not interconnected.
See Zoom
I'm a man
class,
of
pandemic,
transparency.
etc.
I'm a man of honor. To think that we're paying folks in the narrative that we're paying folks to be transparent is a tough one for me. It's a tough one. When we think about negotiating a change in working conditions, doesn't always have to be monetary. And this question is going to go through the chair to the administration. From what I recall, Mr. Chairman,
You have about 3 minutes.
Thank you. From what I recall, Mr. Chairman, we hired additional staff, perhaps an additional unit, to deal with footage and body cameras. That in and of itself is a concession. I'm not sure how that was negotiated because, again, I wasn't privy to it.
But again,
that,
like he's
to
saying
me, is
right
an
here, that's
acceptable
not
concession.
not for
We're
each
lifting some of that
officer.
workload.
Right.
And so you can have a monetary, you can have a workload adjustment, you can have both. This appears to be both. To the chair, to the administration.
Cops are getting overtime to do that.
The
Right,
onboarding
exactly.
of
So the law
staff
department hires
and
people
what
if
that
they hire
looks like
people.
with
you know?
regards to coverage as relates to footage.
Mr. Manager?
Through the chair to the council, the staff that you're alluding to will be under the Department of, the Law Department, and their role and responsibility will be for redactions. So any public member who wants to request footage or any other camera footage, this team, it will be responsible for redaction. We have proposed 3 members to be under the Law Department, and it will be civilian individuals.
I should get that job.
Hired
Keep saying it every
to
time
take
it
on
comes
this
up. I should
role.
get that job.
We've received.
I thought it was 2. I think he's wrong about that.
Public safety.
Just speaks to how
Commissioner
those
of
people are
Public
never going to
Safety
get
for the
hired.
state
This is going to
has
be overtime
provided
in
a
perpetuity.
guidance that any community that takes on this work they're recommending, depending on the size of the community, 1 per 100 body cameras. We have 300 body cameras, and so we chose as though 3 individuals right now would be the best civilian members to be part of the law department's redaction team. But it was based on guidance from the state providing to communities.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And through the chair, who does the redacting currently?
Currently, the redacting is happening in tandem between the law department and individuals from the police department.
Thank you. And so
Dude,
that's
that's
gonna be
such a
decrease
fucking
in
bullshit
the
way to
workload of
describe
the
what's
police
happening right now.
department as it transitions
I missed that. What did he say?
to
He said it's
the law
happening in
department
collaboration
at some
between the
point.
law
Do we have
department and the police
a
department.
target date for when that'll
Which
occur?
means that it's cops getting overtime to do
Yes.
it.
Yeah.
To the
What a
council,
fucking little snake, dude. He's not
you
even
mentioned
good at
there's a
it.
decrease in terms of workload for the department. Actually, officers right now, because this is outside of their duty, they're doing it as part of overtime.
There you go.
So a strategy to reduce the overtime is to try to get it into the civilian hands for civilians to do this work. Right now, we're in the process of putting together job descriptions together to be posting this to the public.
Thank you, Mr.
You haven't
Chairman.
posted the jobs? Oh my God.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, for me, this is extremely difficult. On its face, to me, it feels a bit wasteful to this degree. I want to reiterate, this is not a reflection of collective bargaining. Collective bargaining is completed. We are the governing body, Mr. Chairman. And folks who have been consistent with the administration regarding their concerns of this matter have been quite clear. I know I've been quite clear with the administration. And, it's really, I don't want to be wasteful of the taxpayers' money. Through the chair, my understanding from your office is that it'll cost about $2.5 million over the first half of this, first 5 years or so. Is that accurate?
Mr. Manager?
To the chair, to the council, it's estimated to be about roughly $500,000 on an annual basis. So if you look out about 5 years, you're looking at 2,500.
And over
2.5.
10 years, you're looking at $5 million, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct.
Right. And
I do
again,
also want to, sorry, Councilor, I do want to clarify, the solicitor just informed me that we've actually already received applications for these redactors, and they're currently being reviewed.
that's a beautiful work lift to remove from the police department's also a good.
They were all staff that decided to leave their roles at Popeye's Chicken after last week's event.
From the police department.
Man,
It's good to
don't
hear
treat
that we're looking
fast food
at
workers
overtime.
poorly.
Ugh,
they're on the front
gross.
lines.
We had a $300,000 transfer for overtime. A few weeks before that, we had another
Every fast food
$100,000
worker is
transfer
braver
for
than
the
every
police department.
cop.
Overtime is $1.2 million.
That's my hot take
while
for the evening.
Overtime is being audited in the department. I have significant questions there, Mr. Chairman.
You wrap up your comments.
I will wrap it up right now. And what I'll say is this, Mr. Chairman, again, I think that the timing of this has resulted in a divisive nature in our city. I know that the school department, school committee, and folks, they have at least $45 million more this year than they had last year, Mr. Chairman. And I'm not going to speak anything further on that. But what I will say is I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that the city administration take a look at our finances and determine whether or not there's anything additional that we can do on behalf of to send over to the school side, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe there is, quite frankly. And given I don't have time to get into those details, we will in the budget. But
Okay.
we do a lot for the schools,
Okay, thank you.
millions of dollars. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So,
I'm still not sure what his angle on that whole thing was.
Councilor Windfall by
I'm very
Councilor
confused.
I really have no idea.
You
Yeah.
next?
Oh, I thought it was, I'm sorry.
Oh, you might
Okay.
have raised your hands. Okay.
No, it's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have a few questions. So to the chair, if it's already a signed deal, what is the meaning, weight, or even the point of this vote? Why do we need to vote if it's already signed?
Mr. Solicitor?
It's a process called CYA.
Nice question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I look
Through the
Kitty
chair
just
of the
standing up
council,
right in
the
front of
votes need to be
somebody.
taken because
She
of
knows needs
general
to-
law and transferring money.
And also we have a salary ordinance that needs to be amended. So we need the votes to do that. So that's why they need to go forward.
Through the chair, so probably to the city manager, why wasn't it just waited for the city council to approve before the signing of the contract?
Mr. Solicitor?
Through the chair, this is a very unique situation. I acknowledge that.
We're a unique city.
The money has already been appropriated for the particular purpose. So the money was there for the city manager to spend.
Not particular, the general purpose.
He could spend some or all of that money that was appropriated specifically for ongoing union negotiations. So typically there's a specific appropriation to a CBA. Becoming something new, comes in, the council has to fund that new contract. This was money already set aside for this specific purpose.
Not specific,
which then
general.
legally authorized the manager to enter into that MOU. It's binding.
So through the chair, when you say I am legally obligated to vote yes, is it illegal for me to vote no?
Through the chair, no, I'm saying that there's a legal, the city has a legal obligation to sign contract that's enforceable. So I'm saying that it's, in my opinion, this vote needs to go forward. Otherwise, we're in jeopardy of the breach of the contract, and I don't know exactly what would happen after that.
You don't know?
That sounds a bit like a chicken or the egg kind of conversation to me. And I want to be clear about this legal argument here because the council voted to approve the contingency budget last June, correct? And so the city manager can use any of that funding.
God,
as
he's
he
so
wishes.
stupid, huh?
Can that contingency funding be used for pretty much anything since it's a fund for unforeseeable events?
Through the chair, the contingency budget specifically called out, I have it in front of me, of the total amount of money in the contingency, there was amount that was targeted for COLA increases, and there was amount that was targeted for ongoing union negotiations. And then there's an amount that was for other contingency funds throughout the fiscal year for other citywide funds as required. That section, that amount of money would have to come back for a specific appropriation vote of the city council. But the other items are called out specifically that that's the appropriation that's being held in contingency for those items.
Mhm. So today we are looking at 238,000 for this fiscal year. But from what I understand, this is essentially increasing all their salaries systemically, including new officers who joined the force, even though they themselves didn't experience a change of working conditions or duties.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so, we weren't looking, when this changing condition is not just for the individual members, this changing condition is for the union body. And so the union body felt as though this is a moment that they needed to negotiate for the body in general. Either new members coming in or not, this is where they felt. And this is where our negotiations landed.
And I know I asked this in the executive session, but when does body cams simply become part of their job description and not a tool of negotiation?
Mr. Manager?
That's a tough question to answer because the body camera, the unions have the
'Cause
right,
it'll make me look
because it's a
stupid.
changing condition to determine and negotiate that at any point in time. This contract, not only that we just agreed upon, they also have the right the next year or the following year or any other year to come back and renegotiate it. I also have the right to come back and renegotiate that contract depending on kind of the situation.
Do you though?
Yeah, but like, come on.
Things
You
that-
know?
Would
Are you
though?
really?
Would you though? No, you really don't. Come
to
on,
the
dude.
union
Like,
members, we also have the opportunity to renegotiate any terms within that. And so it could be renegotiated at any point in time.
Mhm. And through the chair, for folks wondering, does the city council ever have the decision-making power to vote no against the city manager's recommendation to use funding in ways we disagree with? If yes, please offer a few examples, and if no, please explain why.
Mr. Trainer, or can you repeat the question?
Yes. So folks are wondering, does the city council ever have the decision-making power to vote no against the city manager's recommendation to use funding in ways we disagree with? If yes, please offer a few examples, and if no, why?
Through the chair, the answer
This is not
yes.
fair to
An
ask him an
example is
LSAT question when he
the
clearly
successor
didn't pass
collective
it.
bargaining agreement gets negotiated between the manager and the union. then comes into the council to be for appropriations to fund that new agreement, the council can reject that and send it back for further negotiations. But that's not the case we have before us here, because the money is already appropriated.
So,
but like,
You're saying because it's in
sounds
the-
like you appropriated the money too early, my bro.
City Council defy the law challenge.
Not already in like a set funding account.
It would be a new CBA coming in for some union, and it's a new budget year. And that new agreement, it doesn't have to be on the beginning of a budget year, but a new agreement comes in and it says, okay, we're going to need X amount of dollars to fund this agreement. It's brand new. The council can say, no, we reject that. We're not going to appropriate that much money. Go back and keep negotiating.
So you're saying
This
let's
is the
say
hairstyle of a man who has
contingency
his
fund.
retirement
So
date
one,
clearly
let me
marked
just
off
back
on his
up.
desk calendar.
Was the body cam already part of the contingency funding allocation last June?
My reading of it is yes, because it was for ongoing union negotiations, and I believe we were talking about body cameras at least a year ago, if not longer.
Okay, so it was already like anticipated in that budget back then.
That's yes.
Man, this
Even though
guy
it
sitting in the
wasn't a
front
line
row
item, and it was just a
on the
vague
left side of the
or
screen when
ongoing
it goes back to him
Correct.
is the most
So-
teamstery looking
So when
teamster I maybe have
when
ever
I
seen in my
approve a
life.
budget for contingency funding, and let's say, you know, I have in mind the fire department or any, you know, the health and human service negotiations, and I'm approving $1 million, example for that, and that's the anticipated thought, it could still be, let's say, 500K elsewhere, abstractly.
That would require, if there was specific reference to $1 million for fire department negotiations, and you wanted to take $500,000 of that and
You know how
apply it
many
elsewhere,
people
would
that
take
guy
a
has said,
subsequent vote of the
not
council,
my
which would be
job,
discretionary,
to?
to reappropriate that money for another
A
purpose.
hero.
Yes, but I'm saying because it's a contingency fund, it's been very vague. It just literally says ongoing negotiations.
Through the chair, it says ongoing contract negotiations, but so it's money set aside for collective bargaining purposes.
They are
As opposed to the lump
run-
sum that's
like,
unspecified. Sometimes a contingency.
throwing
just have
him
a
for
certain amount
the
of money
biggest
without
loop.
Specific items called out for what's being funded. The contingency is the whole money.
Literally,
and those
contingencies are
issues
for
solved.
unforeseen circumstances, and he
bargaining
just said
agreement
that the
was
stipends were foreseen.
ongoing.
yes.
And once the end reached an agreement, he had the money appropriated. He was legally.
The fuck are you talking about, bro?
Ladies and
So
gentlemen,
technically, I could put $5 million into a vague contingency.
He's been
fund,
compromised
and
to a
then
permanent
the city
end.
manager can sway wherever he wants.
the
to go with
chair,
that money.
If
No.
two had 10 minutes instead of
a
5
vague
to speak,
$500 million
we'd get to
and
the point where the
$500,000
solicitor would just start screaming,
It's
you
not
realize they're going to
specified.
fucking kill me if we don't pay them,
Council
right?
I have people skills.
Anyways, back to another scenario. Another question that's been in the
deal
air
with
is,
customers.
since a lot of folks have been thinking about the teachers, does the superintendent have the power to negotiate with teachers to get a salary increase? And then the school committee, the city council, and the city manager is legally obligated to fund the negotiated amount.
Left too soon, pal.
Could be yours.
He's like running out.
The chair, I didn't
He went. He
get
ran
all
over to
that.
throw up in the
Yes.
trash barrel
So,
underneath George Russell's
In
desk.
parallel, so does the superintendent have the power to negotiate with teachers to get a salary increase? And then the school committee, the city council, and the city manager is legally obligated to fund the negotiated amount.
Through the chair, I'm not all that familiar with that process, but the superintendent is not the collective bargaining.
He really
agent.
thought he was
Part of
done.
The school committee is, and they have their funds, their budget, and so they can make an agreement and then they can fund it, but all in their body. They're under their control. So it's
Gotcha.
different than coming back to the city for more money for that. That's all within their budget.
That's correct. It's the school committee who negotiates their contract.
So question, why is the city council not part of the negotiations here?
Mr. Trainer?
Through state law, school departments get money. They're fiscally autonomous. So there's an appropriation at the beginning of the year. They get their budget, and then they control the expenditure of that budget. The city council has no more role in it.
Gotcha. Lastly, I want to know how much we have left in the contingency account.
Mr. McGurthy?
Negative 350.
Through the chair, it's about 6.2 million right now that's in the account.
It was $5 million. Dude,
So I would
what
like
the
to
fuck,
get a
dude? Come
report of all
on.
the expenditures of the contingency funds within the last 5 years as an order. Thank you.
All those in favor, opposed, so ordered. Okay, we have Council Hajiak, followed by Council Rose.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Councilman Nguyen, for that line of questions. It's been a lot of confusion around this process. I'll be super brief. I cannot imagine that when community members called for police transparency and justice beyond body cams, that they envisioned that it would come with a reward. And so I principally and ethically, and I have an issue with rewarding the police department for doing something that the community has asked for the right reasons. And the last thing that I would say is that it's been very illuminating to see this process and to learn more about it. And it feels like a repeat of the drone debate that we had, where the city council's power seems to be diminished at every turn. So I plan to vote no for both of those items for those reasons. I cannot, in good conscience, reward something that should be done in the name of transparency and justice. At the same time that we have the Department of Justice investigating and looking at practices and several lawsuits and several testimonies from community members that still don't feel that they have reached a level where we can say that we have justice in policing. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do echo
This ought to
the
be some hero
sentiments of my
shit right here.
colleagues and how two entities, teachers and the police department, are unfortunately being pitted against one another. Through the chair to Mr. McGurthy, I think it might be nice to kind of speak a little bit about the differences. I think there's a lot of confusion.
It's not,
about
you're not,
the
it's not
council's
pitting
role,
them
the
against each
school
other. It's
committee,
comparing the
excuse me, the
situations to
school
show how
negotiations,
fucking out of
because the
whack
school
our
committee,
priorities are. That's
from my
not pitting them
understanding,
against each other.
actually is part of the
You
negotiation.
could fund both if you wanted to.
It's literally textbook
chair,
negging.
Trainer?
Yeah.
Honestly, to frame it that way.
Yeah.
Because literally, it's just people understanding how budgets work,
Talking
and you're
about
like,
the
"Oh no, that's not how it
run that
works."
by me,
Yeah.
sorry.
Through the chair to you, Ms. Solicitor, my understanding is that the school committee is like actively involved in negotiations for contracts. Is that accurate?
Through the chair, that's correct. The
Yeah,
school
so-
committee is the bargaining agent on behalf of the school department.
And I think that's where the confusion lies, is that they think that we, as part of our budget process, are somehow incorporated into that, and we're actually like very, very much separate. But that's a topic for a different time, and I'll wait for the budget.
I feel like most people get that, but we just like hearing you say out loud that you don't have any power to do anything
one
of
the
note.
confusing
I think
things about
two
the
knew
body
the answer to that
cameras
question.
are that
Right.
They were
about
they were
them
trying to
on
get
the
it,
face of
like
it,
that's
you're
fucking
basically saying
lawyering
to
101. Like
well,
they just out-lawyered the
condition
fucking
of your
city's
job
lawyer,
doesn't
where
change,
you
you
ask
still
questions you
operate
know
and
the
act
answer to
accordingly.
get them to
Like
admit
technically
the
nothing
fucking
that you
fault
do
in the
your
system.
day-to-day, your interactions with residents should change. The only difference is you have a camera on now. Well, I challenged myself around that question and called the chief on Friday and actually did a ride along on Saturday night. And I was able to sit in a car over 12, 13 different calls of all different kinds and throughout all parts of the city, and was able to observe the impact of the body camera on that particular officer. And there are a couple of things that really jumped out to me. The first being the amount of concern about the body camera battery itself. Constantly checking, where am I at with this? How much do I have left?
I hope it runs out
that
soon.
was something that was immediately present as part of my experience.
Oh,
The
okay,
other
so you
part
guys
of it
bought
was
shitty
that
cameras?
Every
Great.
single time that there was like an interaction, or we were called to something, or we had to pull over and work with an individual at one point. I say we. I mean, they were running the show. I was just a casual observer. But every time it happened,
Necessary clarification.
pull
They
over
let me
for a
shoot my
minute in a
gun, their
quiet
guns
space,
at
you
stop
pull out the
signs.
wire for your laptop, you plug it into the body camera itself, you let all what I believe to be the metadata come through your body camera into the computer, You type your concern. And so while this is happening, calls are coming in.
Sean Rose is so
things
annoyingly
pop in on
disappointing.
the computer about where you need to be or different concerns. And so I'm seeing all these things evolve in real time and really kind of
Like, why does he think he has to do
overall impact of,
I don't get it.
you know,
Doesn't
the
make any
body
sense.
camera on one's person.
Maybe he's tired of being threatened by the
other thing that
police.
came up was
Can't beat him.
Actually,
someone
that's kind of real.
is on camera and there's like a use of force. They then have to go to headquarters and do their report, and then someone there then
Ever since
extrapolates
Black
the
Lives
data
Matter,
from
there's
that
been a
use of
change in
force
working
incident.
conditions. We can't gun people
And
down
while
on
that
the street
happens,
anymore.
you take an officer off the route. So it puts pressure on all of the other officers while that's happening, while that's transpiring.
This is
And
all
so
based on the assumption that
I would
cops
just
do
encourage
anything.
anyone who
right?
doesn't think that
Like,
has an
fact
impact,
check,
or
please.
even myself, trying to like now it's like, oh, now this kind of makes sense to me as I was going through it.
They do
I
anything
was
but
with
show
her
up to a
for
burglary
nearly
call
6
40
hours.
minutes late and say, yeah, we'll
And
get
so
back to you.
I would just encourage anybody who, you know, has that idea that, well, you're just the same person anyway. You're just wearing a camera. I saw like a real change in terms of like the overall like just responsibilities of having it and the things associated with it as you're interacting with people, as in use of force, as in putting the metadata down, as in all these calls coming in, all these things piling up on the laptop and the PAMET system. Like all these things are happening all in real time. And so I do think it's a change. As it relates to the contract negotiations, you know, we empower the city manager to, you know, go into the contract negotiations with good faith. 9/11 did. I met with
Here's my question.
Gilbert.
While Sean makes this speech, does he realize he's on camera? And if so, what is he hiding? And what is the real Sean?
We want everybody to have body cameras by that following January.
We've seen
At
the
that
real
time,
Sean. We
knew
know.
that there was going to be some elements of, you know, a change in some.
Should the
type of-
council ask for a raise?
Again,
I think
because they're
so.
on camera?
a lot of color. It was really eye-opening to me, like the impact of it. And I would just encourage anybody who has any concerns to call the chief and hop in a car for a
It's
few
very
hours.
interesting to see,
on the
like,
officer
the
and
people who need to
collective
coalesce
group of
around
officers
something,
who are
coalesce
working,
along the line that they
collectively on
empower the city manager
Right.
to negotiate. Like, that term keeps coming up. Like, it's very, like,
Councilor Rivera?
predetermined sort of rhetoric, you know? Like, how do they all arrive
is
on
one
this
of those
one
things I
sort
feel
of...
like,
I've never heard that before,
as we
but
had
now they're all
discussed,
saying it, you know?
now that we're discussing it out, I think we could discuss it. I'd be able to say that we're at this point, it's not something we feel really some of us, as myself, I don't feel comfortable about. I feel like it is part of their duty, but again, I have to be able to trust that, you know, unions and negotiations is what they do. And if they negotiated, yes, we have the power to vote yes or no. But at this point too, the no, I think we have to think about at the macro level that the no can potentially
When you
take
forgot to do
us,
your homework.
you know, to spend
But you
more
still have to give
money
the book
and probably
report?
take us to a worse situation of where we are.
Unless we're
I
talking
think
about
there's
unions at a
always been a
Starbucks,
level
in which
of
case that shit's
negotiation,
bullshit. Just shut the franchise
and
down.
It is a technicality.
Yeah,
but
catching the
with
rise
technicality,
about
they have the right to,
fucking
to
like
do what they do,
a kid, and the kid has to do stuff and doesn't like it,
and as much as I don't
and
like it, that's the reality of what we need to do. So that's why I'll be supporting. I would say that to me, I would like to see this money.
couldn't
I've
even
said
finish
this
the sentence.
before.
That's why I'll be
I would love to
supporting.
see this money
Yeah.
go towards.
Well, if we
not
don't,
this,
then
but
they
go
might
towards
win more
expanding
money
our
from the
cadet
city
program.
manager
I
by
would have loved to
fleecing
see
him.
this money go to expand instead of 5 going to 10 cadets. I would have loved to see this money go to our foot patrols. I mean,
I'd
we're
love to
constantly
change the
asking
subject.
for foot patrols, building those community officers that are building relationships. And
Oh,
constantly
profiles
it's
and
very
courage.
difficult because we don't have money in the
Profiles and
budget to
fucking
be able to
courage
supply
right here.
foot patrol. So again, I would love to see this money go to foot patrols. I'd love to see this money go to youth police dialogue.
But I'm gonna vote for
I
it.
really appreciate the fact that the Maine South CDC bought this very expensive curriculum. They've done several youth police dialogue groups between University Park and Claremont. and they have been very, very successful. I'd love that we could take
Are we
this
still talking
money
about cops?
and use it there. So I'm not saying let's take it out. I just would like to see it redirected to where I feel would be most useful to both.
What are you
police and
hoping to
community,
achieve with
right?
this?
I think it would bring it together. However, we're not in a wishful situation, right? And we don't have magical dust, and so we can't just
Speak
because
for
we
yourself.
want it doesn't mean that it can be. And so right now, I do appreciate
The cops,
this. I do
however,
appreciate
they got
the
magical
chair to the
dust. You know
city
what I'm saying?
manager, the work that was done. I know
Only
that
comes
it
out of
was
the Jenga parties.
and we are in a position
The cops got
that because of this
60
technicality,
to
we have honor,
75%
we
of the
get up
magic
here and we
dust that
talk
they
about,
seize
union and supporting union
citizens.
and labor, and like it or not, sometimes that goes in a way that isn't great. But right now, because it's something, it is a technicality, it's something that we must do. If not, we're going to see it again on this floor. Like, we can vote no, but it's going to come back. This is not going to go away. This is going to turn into, even more of an issue. If this turns into litigation, how much more money are we looking to spend? So again, I'm looking to
Oh
get more
no,
money
not
that's
police
gonna go in
department related
connection.
litigation.
Like I said,
How would we ever deal with
would
that?
have loved to see
Why
this
would we
go
ever
to
deal with
other
police
things
department
like the
related
cadet,
litigation? That's crazy.
like the foot patrols and like the youth police dialogues.
If
and
there's
not have to
anything we
depend
know,
on
the
other
police
things,
department has
but-
an incredible track
so this is
record when it
why
comes to
I'll be
litigation.
supporting it
What an
tonight,
incredible
because I
line of inquiry
think
from
under
Soraya Vera here.
negotiations is something
I don't
seems
like
right
it, but
to
I'm
us.
voting
It's
for
been
it
an agreement coming forward.
because I don't
we've
like
been
it.
working on it back and forth for a long time, and I think it's just time
Because
to
it
kind of
could be so much worse.
and
Think
so
about
I think
it.
right now I'd like to move forward, but I think I
We
want to
could pay
just
them
continue
$50
to
billion
put that bug.
in
I'm
a
going to be like
stipend.
a
That would be
broken record,
terrible.
and I'm going to keep asking for those things. And hopefully, and I think that I hope we're going to be analyzing the overtime budget, which is pretty large. So there's a lot of things to consider.
You think that's
and
going to
moving
happen?
forward.
You're hoping?
It may not be something that I personally agree with or would want. Like I said, I'd
But
like to
I'm
put
a
the money
coward.
somewhere else within the police department and community. But as we are right now, they have the right to be able to do this. And in order for us to look at this at the macro level and not just kind of at the micro level, we have to be able to kind of move this forward. And I hope we can be the type of council that sometimes we have to get to a point where we agree to disagree, but have to think about what's best and what we're doing right now and how we could actually move forward that's less invasive and it's best for everyone all around.
Dude,
And I think we are
moving
at that
forward
right
is
now,
the
and I really
craziest
appreciate the
term
work that
in the
was
lexicon
done by
of Worcester
everyone on this.
officials.
Thank you.
The
Like
greater
literally, it
good.
just means stop
Thank you,
having
Mr. Chair.
politics. We should just stop
I
having
held
politics.
This is
and
bull-
just
because I believe that we needed more clarity.
my
And I think that we've had an opportunity, that people have had an opportunity to hear.
yeah, the mayor got to go on the radio.
And to understand the process. And, just a point that I do want to make is that there has been history, there has been case law regarding change in working conditions.
Oh, great. We're going to
with
get
these types
Kate
of
Toomey
things.
citing
And,
case law.
there
This
have
shit ought to
been,
be fucking
various
rich.
police departments throughout the Commonwealth that
just the
have
things that
not
the
been
city
as
solicitor
transparent,
missed.
who have been
Just fuck,
providing
it's going to
pay.
pass. So
Perhaps
just
there's
shut the
one
fuck
that,
up, please, and vote on
contacted
it so
me.
we can
They
all
actually
move
got money
on
in their
with our
longevity.
lives, like Soraya Rivera
So,
said.
I think this is very transparent in terms of where the money is coming from and going. And I think that it's very important that people do realize that
Transparent as opposed to
it is-
what?
This is different.
Right?
It's not
Like,
just
what is she
taking
talking
the money
about?
out of one pot to put into another. And I appreciate the discussions.
That's
that
literally
people
how
have
budgets
had
work.
regarding the role of the council versus the role of the school committee. As a former school committee member, I can attest to you that I actually was part of the negotiations, and it's very, very different on this body. So I want to thank also my colleague Sean Rose, who took the
What kind of
time,
secret message is
to actually
Kate
speak for
sending by
himself.
playing with that binder
And I
clip on her
appreciate,
pinky finger?
What is she doing?
your testimony,
As somebody that does shit
to
like that all the time when my
because
hands are out of
it
sight,
really does take
like,
a lot more time.
You're on
And
camera.
I also just want to say that this isn't a reward for the police officers. It's basically something that was negotiated and was appropriate. So I want to thank the city manager for all the hard work that he did. And I appreciate my colleagues' differences of opinion. But I think that
Shut
we
up.
need to
Just shut up.
move forward on this.
If
and
you
I-
have, if you're
I,
gonna
I'm
fucking
certainly gonna be
vote for it, then at least shut the fuck up about it.
Thank you. Councilmember Carlson, followed by Councilor Russell.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Dude, this is brutal.
I think all my colleagues know that I've spent my life
Man, I
in the
cannot
labor
tell you.
movement. And I would
If
stand here
Kate Toomey loses
and
this year,
say tonight,
I don't even know.
everyone.
I might stop doing the show.
And most of my
I might just
colleagues
give it up to
on
you
this
guys because
council
this
have
I
supported
couldn't
organized
possibly
labor in many
feel
different
better than I
ways,
would that
in
day.
many different shapes.
Yeah, I
when
know.
Kate
Right?
Toomey
Pride
loses.
ourselves
We should
in
literally
this
just be like,
city
we did it, and that's
on
incentive
being
for every other city council member to turn on
everyone.
her.
Yeah.
And
We
one
will
of the
stop
things
doing this
that
if
We'll
Kate
stop.
Toomey
We'll
loses.
all the
stop.
time
We'll
during
stop.
election time and throughout the year. Folks lean on organized labor, and we've learned through this council about people coming, whether it's the teachers, which I think, to my colleagues'
Oh, it'd be
point,
so great. I
Councilor
think Candy
King,
will lose.
I think it's
Honestly,
a
I don't
real
think it's not even a
shame
question.
that we have wind up in a situation that this council is being pitted against the police department and the teachers. That's something that couldn't be further from the truth. I think that everyone on this council supports our teachers in every way that we possibly can. I think there's confusion over what this council has in terms of what is our
I'm telling you,
jurisdiction.
those glasses are
with the
20% bigger than they were last
Quite
week.
frankly, it's very different with the teachers and the school committee than the city council and all of our different labor organizations in this city. We do not have the same opportunity that the school committee does when contracts are being negotiated. We hire a city manager and that's his job. That's what he does. And I think we all know that and understand.
Candy's getting to the point that I was just going to make,
Quite
that like,
frankly,
regardless
you know,
of whether
interesting as
people
I'm
agree
sitting
or
here
disagree with
tonight,
this,
because
like
on
all
all
anyone
the
is saying is that
organizing
we
drives
hired a city manager who
across
sucks
this
at his
country
job
that I've been on.
and can't
Some
negotiate
of the
for shit.
reasons
Yeah,
why
yeah.
people organized.
Like,
was
listen,
for
I
all the different
voted for the city
businesses
manager,
that
so
we
I'm
talked
kind of in a
about
bind
tonight.
here. That's my argument.
Really
We
about
empowered him.
together
I know it
and
sucks. No one
saying
likes it.
so that
Everyone
there
thinks
are
it's
no
bad, but
Well,
biases,
hey,
you know,
there
it's,
is
you got to
an
dance with who
elected
brung you.
body and the
So
management
I
of
heard the
whether that
dinosaurs. I
company
thought it
or
was just a rumor.
municipality come
What am
to
I to do
terms.
now?
by a series of
Come to an agreement
maybe
that works for
allegedly in a
them
video
and their
game political
people.
blackmail
And I think that
activity,
we as a
he
council
had to be
need
nominated to be the city
understand
manager,
that that's what
and I
we've
had to support him.
asked
So,
our
you know, what are
current
we gonna
city
do?
manager and previous city managers.
here's the
And
thing:
there are
they
how
could
many
fire him at
unions
any time.
in the city
Yes.
of
He's got a
Worcester?
contract. They would just have to pay him the
6
rest of his
different
contract.
collective
Yeah,
bargaining
right.
units
They could.
in
I mean,
the
they could
city of
fire him for
Worcester,
cause. Like they
of
could. There's always a
which
way out of the
this
contract.
council has
Um,
not asked.
But that contract
has
costs
not
a buyout
asked
cost
what
way
they
less
got
than
in
what
each
they're going
and
to be
every
paying the
one of
police over the next 10
different
years for body
6
cameras.
contracts.
So that'd be a net
But
win.
we stand here tonight because this is such a hot button issue. But we have not asked what any other collective bargaining agreement received from this city. Again, as
Yes, she is
my
pretending to be
colleague
outraged. She
Councilor
can't
Rivera
even
said, and
get
I
a
have the
a
utmost
fully formed
respect for that.
sentence out of her fucking dumb
Maybe
face, though. So
everybody doesn't agree, but quite frankly, somebody coming from the labor movement and who fought on many picket lines and many strikes, quite frankly, we have to respect the process. And that's their right under the law to collectively bargain. It doesn't mean that we need to like everything that they get, because quite frankly, there isn't any one of us who, if somebody's making more money than we are, we all want to make that, right? Again, that's their role that they play. They have elected offices.
she's
and
fucking
we
winging
have
it
a
and not making any
manager
goddamn
that
sense.
we have told him to go. He got his marching.
What do you want me to do? Govern?
They came to
I'm not here to
terms with
govern.
agreement,
This is a
and I,
very,
quite
very good
frankly,
point, Jack. Thank you.
think that this council should
Oh yeah, to take
support
the
that.
heat off
That's
of
what we've asked.
fucking have them do
Because what's gonna
D5 to
happen
take the
if
heat off
not,
D2.
And I think Councilor Rivera said this, is we're going to wind up in arbitration. We're going to wind up in litigation. And
I
today,
can't have my
what
wife
was it?
losing a
All
city
over
council
Twitter
seat.
today. And
Jose Rivera running
why
D5.
is it that the city council isn't asking and stopping about all these lawsuits and all this litigation? So here's another example that tonight we have the opportunity to vote this and put it to bed and do the right thing by the men and women, quite frankly, in the police department and by our city and the taxpayers. Thank you.
That was all over the place. So you're saying that you're doing the right thing by giving them this money, but also even if we don't like it, we got to give it to them anyways because that's their negotiating right.
Listening to the debate of my colleagues and
It's our negotiating right to lose.
Just at least be intellectually honest about what you think. You want the cop. You want to give the cops money because you want the cops to have more money. Just fucking say it. But you know that people hate that shit, so you can't say that.
Nobody probably in the city has covered it more than her and her husband, the rights of unions and union members.
George, shut the
Mr.
fuck up.
Chairman,
I'm as union pro union as it comes, but I
not some unions,
wouldn't trust her fucking
all
husband
unions
like
to negotiate.
with my
I'm not gonna
pension
pick and
or
choose and
benefits.
say that some unions have the right to negotiate and others don't have the right to negotiate. I
George
support
Russell
the
doing
rights
all
of
unions
all
matter,
unions
apropos
to
of
negotiate
nothing.
in good faith. Mr. Chairman,
It's cool.
this city manager, one thing no one seems to talk about tonight is there are two police unions, and one of them hasn't even accepted this agreement yet. So if it was such a big giveaway or such a big thing, if there's $5 a day, which is what this comes down to be, if an officer is working a $5 a week, it's $5 a day for this
Dude,
effort.
what the fuck?
If this
kind
is
of math is
too
that?
much,
Come on.
then why isn't the other union grabbing at this and lined up at the door? Looking
Because
for
they know
other
you're a cheap
union
date. They're
is
going to get
fucking
more.
Desk workers, dude.
A good job, a good faith effort.
They don't fucking need body
to try and
cameras.
Look out for the interest of the taxpayers, to look out for the interest of the city as a whole. And I think to fairly negotiate with a union that has every right in the world to ask for anything they wanted to ask for.
Dude,
of course,
oh my God.
all
This is
of
like
us would
soul
have-
punishment.
If we all had the rights and the staff to come up with 11 different budgets, I'll bet you we'd all have 11 different budgets, but that's not our plan of government. Our plan of government doesn't allow each one of us in the council to take money out of one department and put it into another. It doesn't allow us to add money to the budget. We can deduct overall, but we can't specifically add money to the budget. That's our plan of government.
Yeah, the
If you don't like
police
the plan of
police
government,
hide behind
let's not talk
unions
about
when
changing
it's
the plan of
advantageous for them, and
When I
then
talk
crush
about that,
them
I
when
seem to
it's
be like,
the
all
other
alone in the hallway
364 days of the year. So
But the
Yeah.
reality is,
Well-documented history
I'm
of
gonna
this
support
happening.
this
Yeah.
item.
That's
and
why
I,
they should never be
thank the
counted amongst
administration for their efforts,
amongst labor unions.
as they went forward.
All right, another
I do,
fucking
however,
8-3
Mr.
vote.
Chairman,
Shut up, George
I
Russell,
do,
dude. Come on.
I do, I am not happy with the fact of the narrative that came out, because this should have been talked about openly ahead of time from the law department, the administration.
I'm not happy with the
They
fact
should
that
have
people are
talked
talking about this.
The way this item is written, it's an ordinance, it's a salary ordinance. They do have to come here, in my opinion, for this vote. If you want to nitpick, or if you either it was approved or it wasn't approved. If it was approved in
How
the
many
budget before,
of these
and it's
longtime
in the
counselors do you think
manager's contingency
business
budget,
will come crashing
then I don't
down
even
and go
know
under
why we
once they're
even
not
had
in the
it
city
before
council
us.
anymore?
I really don't understand that.
Dude, George
But
Russell,
I will
100%.
support the
I
item
feel like
because
George
the
Russell's real estate
administration
empire
and
is
you, Mr.
going to
Chairman,
crumble
have it
around
on the
him.
agenda as a legitimate item, and I'll vote to approve it.
Thank you, Council Cora.
Yes, thank you. I don't have a lot
Gloria,
to add. I mean,
close
a
it
lot has
out.
been said tonight, a good discussion. One of the things that just triggered when Councilor Russell was speaking, so I just wanted to
Oh, great. Now
add
Donna's
to it or
triggered.
support it, is that when I was on school committee, we did do a lot of the bargaining, and I supported the teachers' rights. I supported the teachers that came to the table. I supported the process. And I think that's what we're here tonight to talk about, and that's what we're here to support, is we're supporting the process.
No. You're
And
literally supporting the money.
I'm not going to pick and choose what union I'm going to support and not
This is
support.
this
We're
is
here
one of
to
their
support
coordinated
all
like
the
talking
unions in front
points
of us,
is
in
obfuscating
the
what people's
city.
real issue
You
is
have
and
a
trying
healthy
to
city.
gaslight
Have,
and
you
undercut
know,
it.
the opportunity
Yeah.
to come to the table. Thank you.
Thank you for keeping it short, John. I love you.
Much has been said. I'm not going to repeat.
So crazy. It's like
overwhelming majority. of what's
Donna's
been
gonna
said.
have to
Just
go
two
back to
thoughts
being
come
the
to
pigeon
mind,
lady from
and I
Home
know
Alone
we've got a little
2.
bit field our discussion.
I
on
don't know if she's
the teachers
prepared
union,
for
but
that.
it's part of the narrative that all of us, no matter which side of this issue you're on, have been asked to address. I think I'm not unique. All of us have been receiving more emails than we've ever received before on any one issue regarding the teachers union and the inability thus far to come to an agreement. So through the chair, just to say, solicitor, I'm not asking for you to do anything at the moment. I'm asking though in the future at the next meeting or as soon thereafter as possible, could you just put in a memo what was already discussed tonight, why our role is different than the school committee's role, because I think that would be important for us to be able to at least respond to the overwhelming amount of emails.
Here you have one lawyer asking
we
another
all
lawyer
know
to explain
that
state law to
if
them.
we're supportive, and I certainly am, I'm sure my colleagues
Hide
are,
me, hide me,
getting
hide me, hide me, hide me, hide me.
a
That's what
little
Bergman is
out of
saying.
control over that scenario. The only thing I'd like to add, Mr. Chairman, is perhaps this budget cycle.
The only way that you don't have any say
if there are
over the
contingencies
the
that will
the
require future
school
votes, that gets
committee's
discussed
budget is
when we're
if the
discussing
school
budget, so
committee
we don't
isn't
come to a
spending all of
situation
their money,
later on like we
which
did
they
tonight
are,
and have some
and they
confusion
need
as to
more.
whether or not
So
we did or didn't
your
already
work
vote
can
on
allocate
something
more
in the
money
past.
to
Thank you,
them.
Mr.
So
Chairman. Thank
to
you.
say that you have
We
no
have a motion to
responsibility or no
advertise
control
on
over is
10B.
such fucking bullshit.
We're going to ask a procedural question.
Yes. Just with regards to procedure, I want to clarify what we're voting on here.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
So
So on
the
10B,
point of
we're vo-
information is, I want to make sure I'm clear. There's been some statements that we're voting against collective bargaining. We're
Mr.
voting-
Chairman, I clearly ask questions better than you answer them. Let me
No, it's
finish.
a question. That was part of the actual question. I can say it verbatim again. The point of information is, are we taking a vote here on an ordinance? Are we taking a vote against collective bargaining or against a change in working conditions?
We're taking a vote on
So that's
10.
my question to the chair, to the administration.
It's a salary amendment. What? That's kind of a weird question, honestly.
Well, I
It's
think
like
because
very
people
clearly-
are saying people are taking up the issue as like they have the right to collectively bargain this, and we can't say no. And so the question is now becoming muddied on what they're actually
salary
are voting
ordinance
on.
to identify or to recognize the stipend in the salary ordinance. And the second vote is to move the money from the contingency account to the police department.
Thank you. So that's a no. Thank you.
So we're taking 10B is a motion to advertise. Then we'll take 9.37C, which is a transfer. It's the motion to advertise. Roll call.
Council Bergman?
Yes.
Council Calorio?
Yes.
Nico should
Council Haji?
unionize, I think.
Council King?
No.
Council Merrill Carlson?
Yes.
Council Nguyen?
No.
Council Rivera?
Yes.
Council Rose?
Yes.
Council Russell?
Yes.
Council Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty?
Yes. Next time is to transfer
Wow,
the
8-3
funds,
vote. What a fucking surprise, huh?
$438,000, which is 9.37C. What's that?
Reconsideration.
On the other item? So the motion is to reconsider on 10B. Roll call.
Council Bergman?
No.
Council Calorio?
No.
Council Haji?
No.
Council King?
No.
Council Merrill Carlson?
No.
Council Nguyen?
No.
Council Rivera?
No.
Council Rose?
No.
Council Russell?
No.
Council Toomey?
No.
And Mayor Petty?
Mr. Chairman,
No.
just a point of information on this vote. The question is, I thought that what we were told previously is that the money is gone and we don't need to transfer it, that it's already been appropriated in the fund. So I just want to be clear that we should be voting on this
Yeah,
through the chair to the solicitor.
The city's solicitor already went over this. The money was already appropriated into the contingency account for
Correct.
this purpose. The vote now is to transfer from the
So
contingency
it hasn't
account
been transferred.
to the police salaries.
So it hasn't been transferred.
No,
Has
this is
not.
the vote for.
Okay.
But they are already being paid
Roll call.
from it.
Council Bergman?
Yes.
Council Calorio?
Yes.
Council Haji?
No.
Council King?
No.
Council Merrill Carlson?
Yes.
Council Nguyen?
No.
Council Rivera?
Yes.
Council Rose?
Yes.
Council Russell?
Yes.
Council Toomey?
Yes.
And Mayor Petty.
Yes.
Motion for reconsideration.
Motion for reconsideration, roll call.
Council Bergman?
No.
Council Calorio?
No.
Council Hajiye?
No.
Council King?
No.
Councilmember Carlson?
No.
Council Nguyen?
No.
Council Rivera?
No.
Council Rose?
No.
Council Russell?
No.
Council Toomey?
No.
And Mayor Petty.
No. Okay, next item is Department of Inspectional Services. The recommended adoption of amendment to ordinance related to the driveways, parking, and paving.
Yeah, that was 8-3.
This will go refer to the
Big fucking
planning board.
surprise. The first 8-3 vote we've ever seen on the city council this year.
Yep. Refer to the planning board.
The first time the city has ever done something
Council King?
fucking stupid and
1
ugly
second to grab it
by
here.
an 8-3
It's
vote.
910A.
No, it's 9.15A.
Had it.
Candy is moving in on Idella.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do have some questions regarding this.
She's like, vote for me.
I can just do the chair. I don't want to waste my time. If we can just get
I represent
quick
everything you disagree with.
summation
Vote for me.
of exactly what this is, Mr. Chairman. I know that we passed some ordinance some time ago related to driveways and paving over the front.
God, that was one of the dumbest fucking
If I could just get a quick bullet point of
discussions
exactly
of all
what
time.
this is.
We really saw the
the
city
chair.
council's ability
The
to
counselor,
like
A
self-rationalize.
lot of the language in here is really clarification, making it easier for us to enforce those provisions, because there was some confusion in the language that when we sat down, worked with inspectors.
Just
worked with
completely
everybody,
abdicating their
it was very
responsibility.
difficult to
You know? They
enforce
were
it.
just
So
like,
it
oh,
still,
it's we don't have any authority here.
Deals
was
with the
like the main
intent of what
takeaway.
was in there before, as far as that goes. But it provides better
I know it's
language
unpopular,
that
but
helps
we
us
don't
be
have any
more
authority.
consistent with that enforcement.
What do you want us to do?
That's the primary thing. Secondary is really to create the requirement for a permit. So the issue really was that we had a ordinance that very few people knew about, that our enforcement would be relegated to after the fact. So somebody has already made improvements, and then now we have to enforce it. So the idea of this is to require the permit, so we can review the work that's going to be done and make sure that it's compliant with our ordinance.
Deputy city manager?
Rather than having somebody make a mistake and us be in the position we're
Yeah, I
in.
haven't figured that one out.
So that was the speculation last time, but I can't remember where we landed.
Thank you. And to the chair,
I'm going to apologize if I get his name wrong, but his name, I believe it's pronounced Hung. And he was hired.
Many cases.
Mike
where-
O'Brien hired him years ago as
we're
an
not always
intern.
sure when the
But there's a Vietnamese temple over on Dewey Street that he was an active part of, and was this is probably going back like 20 years now. These kids were awesome in like organizing debates, like for school committees, city council, and whatnot. Really good kid, but he was super interested in development. I can't remember if he went to Clark or Worcester State, but after he got his degree, came on board full time.
10x10 area
Oh.
require
Good kid.
some additional fees, paving fees.
Somebody let him know
well as,
that there's a decent chance that the
requirements. So
chat is horny for him.
So the fees are based on the actual area. So the area is, we're looking at, for the paving fees, they're based on, for residential, it's $150. For, I think it's 100, I forget what looking at the wrong section here.
Fucking idiot.
It's per 1,000 square feet.
You're
and then for
fucking shit
commercial, that's
together, you
150.
fucking moron.
For the first 1,000 square feet and 1,000 square feet, it's $100 after that. So it lowers that. So what we're really looking at more than the fee, the 10 by 10 area you're talking about is an expansion of a 10 by 10 in the residential area. So we're making sure that people aren't expanding those driveways without us taking a look at it.
Thank you. No, again, I have a number of concerns here. I've talked a lot about staffing issues in this particular department, Mr. Chairman. I think that we are addressing. I know we just passed the registry. Through the chair, I'll just ask the manager, what's the name of the registry there for the rental registry? We passed that. I have some significant concerns about permitting in this city in terms of delays that have impacted all sorts of folks, businesses, construction, et cetera. And I see this fee as an attempt to obviously procure revenue in addition to what has been mentioned here, Mr.
Worcester
Chairman.
politics for
I
the
see
past
this
year has
as
just been
an
the process of
expansion
routinely
regulation.
watching the
I see it
dumbest
as,
people win.
unnecessary expansion of regulation. I also see it,
It's
Mr.
like
Chairman,
cosmically demoralizing.
as a tax,
Like the psychic
another
weight of it
tax
is just
on our
crazy.
homeowners, Mr. Chairman. And I don't believe
The
that this
stupid guys get
department has the
together.
capacity. We
They
have
find a
enough
way to distort
challenges right now in
reality
the city
towards their
making
own
sure
end.
our three-deckers are safe.
They all say some
for
version
our
about distorted
our
reality.
firefighters who
And
respond.
the cops get what
In
they
addition
want.
to that, making sure it's safe for the inhabitants, Mr. Chairman. I don't think that this is a direction we should be going in, Mr. Chairman. And I understand a lot of folks would like to have that further discussion. I think this expansion in terms of becoming another tax, attempting to produce revenue for that particular department is not what we need right now in the city with challenges to our homeowners and our renters. I think we need folks that work with them. I think we need additional staffing. I think we need to make our folks safe. And I understand the implications when we talk about heat islands and the implications of paving over grass and what have you. But this is a little different than that, Mr. Chairman. And for now, folks to have to go through this, be delayed,
Heat Island sounds like
go through this
a
process as
syndicated
a
like
residential
USA show
homeowner who
where
may
like
have
a
a
wrestler
driveway
is like a
is
private
bit
eye.
too much, Mr. Chairman. And it's going to cause a lot of issues, Mr. Chairman. My motion would be to send this back to the manager.
Hey, Councilor Russell.
Mr. Chairman, I asked the original question if it was being sent off to planning board and later to the Economic Development Committee, and I was willing to have those discussions at that level. But at first glance, my opinion of this is not too far off of Councilor King's. It does seem to be more and more, we should be making it easier, especially for small property owners, small business people, small homeowners. Mr. Chairman, when I first was elected to this council, you and I sponsored an item together to do away with the regulatory process and hearing process of parking plans for small businesses that were at that time were 8 parking spaces or above. We moved it up to 16. Some 10 years plus later, things are still going fine. And I really, at first glance on this, Mr. Chairman, it's going to take a lot of convincing to get me to go along with it in the long run. And that's pretty much just my feeling on it. In fact, I would support Councilor King's motion to send it back to the administration for a closer look and for more of a discussion informally before we send it off to the planning board. That's just my opinion. Being a small business owner, being a real estate person coming across the challenges that folks have. And, some of these things, when you talk about these permits and the cost involved, they're already in the building permit. We already have a question in the building permit. Somebody puts up a building, it says, what's the cost of construction? And in that cost of construction is the cost of the parking lot. So we're already charging them once, and we're going to charge them again? I just don't like that idea, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Bergman.
You guys got to understand, my business is going to fall apart once I'm
Appreciate
no
Mr.
longer on
Spence
city
for being
council.
here and
all
the
my
work he's done on this.
insider info
I too, though, have a couple questions and concerns.
and
that I might need
inappropriate
to share
conflicts of interest
with
won't be
Mr.
able to help me
Spencer,
anymore.
Commissioner
So
Spencer.
I got to save everything I can, baby.
Or so the word resurfacing doesn't seem to have a definition in our handout. Maybe it's the obvious definition, or maybe not everything is defined. But I'm just curious through the chair. I'm assuming that means an existing asphalt area that doesn't necessarily relate to new construction, because the sentence is any new residential paving or resurfacing. So through the chair, my question is this resurfacing? It can't be resurfacing if it's a new residential structure. So I'm assuming it's resurfacing an existing residential structure. Does that make sense?
Commissioner?
Yep, correct. Through the chair, the intent of that was resurfacing, so it was laying over additional blacktop material over existing or expanding that particular area. It's not meant for seal coating or any of that kind of restorative work.
But through the chair, if somebody has a driveway that needs to be fixed, but it's been there for a long time, this would still require a permit.
Correct. And again, the reason for that is really so we can look at the ordinance to make sure that the work that's being done is compliant. So if it's just like if you were doing something and you had a non-conforming lot and you're building on that non-conforming lot, we're going to look at the non-conformity. So if you have a large driveway that is exceeding what the limits are, then we'd want to take a look at that through the resurfacing before you start doing that additional work.
See, and again, I appreciate the explanations. So some of my concerns are that people already have driveways, and this does seem to be a new fee, tax, whatever you want to call it. And I think it would,
It's a change
in some
in
ways,
work
discourage people
conditions.
either from doing it legally or just not doing it at all. I think the second issue that I would have some concerns about is we are trying to get cars off the road in the wintertime. There are some narrow streets where people improvise and legally put in parking areas, but they may not do it with permit because there was no permit up until now that was even discussed. I don't necessarily say I would have a strong no vote, but I certainly at the moment don't have a yes vote. So I do think it makes sense to work on some of these tweaks. I think the biggest part of what concerns me is I think if somebody already has a driveway, they should be grandfathered in. I think if there's new construction, I understand the intent of this and I'm perfectly fine with it. But if somebody has an existing driveway, I have concerns about making them pay to resurface something that probably is a good idea that they do, but they didn't really have to do anything by way of a permit in the past. And again, there's a lot of neighborhoods where resurfacing or actually putting down asphalt or resurfacing asphalt makes good sense, especially in the wintertime when we need to keep cars off the road. All that I understand has to be done in compliance with the zoning regulations and code enforcement. But I don't think there's any harm in taking a little bit more time looking at that. That's just my thought. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to say a couple of things just to kind of clarify some points. The purpose of this recommendation that we're asking, amendment to the ordinance, is this council voted an ordinance that wanted to prohibit residents from building or creating or paving over their green spaces in front of their properties, or repaving or resurfacing their current driveways by also expanding their footprint. We have an ordinance that does that this body voted on that because of that concern of eliminating green spaces. The heat index is a problem, and doing it so where sometimes it would impact even the sidewalks. And then you would have vehicles up at the sidewalks, et cetera, because it was right in front of their properties. And so this body had a lot of conversation on that, and we created an ordinance related to it. The purpose of this is because there is no way, it is extremely difficult to enforce that. So we have an ordinance requiring the commissioner to enforce it, but he has no real ability to enforce it because we're going on a blind eye to figure out where is it in the city unless it's complaint driven. And if it's a complaint, now we have to enforce that property owner to tear everything up and build it all back up. What we're trying to do is we're trying to work with the property owner to say, here's a permit.
You want to know an interesting thing I found out, because this isn't interesting? So the WGA authorized, or they voted to start striking last night at 12:01. They're on strike right now. The Teamsters, so they don't blanket strike in solidarity. Like they don't necessarily do that. The DGA may do that. The SAG-AFTRA might do that. But that would be a industry-wide thing. Teamsters don't industry-wide like strike in solidarity, but they will never cross any picket line. So any picket line that goes up in front of any business that the Teamsters are involved in, they won't cross and will shut that off. So
thank you.
They're not striking in solidarity yet with the WGA, but any production that gets picketed anywhere in the country,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
they won't cross
So
picket
I
lines. So
appreciate the
movies are going to start going down one by one.
Right.
Because people will picket individually.
So I clearly understand what our intent
really
was,
fascinating, right?
but I never
Yeah, so they like
million
they
years
they
thought
cause
that we
damage
as a
without
city,
having to organize an
quite
official
frankly,
Yes.
like
as a
Yeah.
response.
homeowner,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
I
But they
Just
just
with
like
a
they're
blanket
de facto
policy.
incorrigible.
right
right?
now, the city
Yeah,
would
that's pretty
commit
cool.
its
That's
arm and
It
a
awesome.
kind of
leg.
rules.
I don't think the intent was that. Yes, the intent was we didn't necessarily want people paving over their front lawns. That I understand. And I do think that if we're putting in new driveways, I do think there needs to be something there because, for example, in my district, people are putting in driveways and the way the water runoff is going, it's going into other people's yards. That was for us to fix and have the city, yes, I agree with a permit. And even, quite frankly, if I'm going to repave
Also,
my
apropos of
driveway,
nothing,
but if
not
I'm
because
gonna
there's like a major
repave my
strike going on, but
driveway and it's going to
I'm
look
not gonna have
the
a job
same
for a
as it
while.
did,
So if anybody wants
quite
to like
frankly, when I
pay us to
looked
play
at
video
that
games on Twitch or
number,
something,
I said,
Yeah.
might be something that
this was
might
not
start
our
doing soon.
intent. And it does feel
Damn,
like,
dude.
to me,
That's
Or just
kinda
hang out.
crazy.
You can just hang out with Brian.
and I was
Yeah.
part of the original ordinance, but for
Nothing
me tonight,
freaky,
I'm
but
sitting here, standing here saying, what am I doing? Am I funding a
I'll do hand
position
stuff.
for
I don't care.
through the people
Immediately
having
walking
that
back to nothing freaky. Ryan.
exorbitant fee? I just have to tell you, it needs to go back to you. And if we could do that, I think that would be great because
If I'm not mistaken, this whole conversation is the result
any
of Gary Rosen in his
constituent to
last
think
term
that was
being
our
upset
intent,
because people
that
were putting
never was our
driveways
intent.
where lawns once
Thank
were.
you, Mr. Chairman.
Are you all set, Council Russell?
Dude,
Not
Gary
being heard,
Rosen
Council
fucking
Corio?
the exemplar of useless city councilor, like the gold standard of useless. Like that.
But
they
the
all
carnage
wanna-
he has left
Yes,
behind
I have to
in his
agree
way.
with
So
my
messy.
colleagues here.
He
I
just loves to get
remember
in
taking that
spats.
initial vote, and I was opposed to it. I think it was myself and Councilor King were the only two that were opposed to this because of many factors. I'm not going to rehash, but basically, I don't
I
want
can't remember.
more oversight, more fees, more restrictions to our taxpayers. I just don't want that. And also, too, we talked about different situations to the city where it's essential that people make a space to have an area where they can park their car because it really, right now, our city has grown so much. Our streets are too narrow. Our driveways are too far and few between. And I can just think on my street how people had to create spaces to put driveways in. And most of them were done very nicely. And
What
one,
do you think your
really
fucking
apologize
job
because the
is?
person was
What do
doing
you
it.
think your job
What
is?
they did is they cut
Why are
into
you there? Why do you
they-
want this
they
job?
took
What are
away
you
a
fucking
parking
talking
space.
about?
What do you
But-
get from this?
In that being said, I really hope this goes
Worcester
back.
suffers
I
from
think
an
this item
egregious,
because
long-standing, and
it's not
deeply
fair and
entrenched
it's not right.
failure of
Thank you.
imagination. Anyone who's
Thank you, Mr.
not
Chairman.
stupid
I just want
leaves.
to reiterate, as mentioned by my
We are
colleague,
left with
Councilor
this.
Russell, as relates
This
to
is
some of this stuff
unreal,
already
like-
being covered. We're talking about double taxation.
Isn't it
Mr.
crazy?
Chairman, We're talking about
We're
government
the three of us are
overreach.
some of the smartest people in this city.
I already acknowledged. the
I'm
green
one of the
space
dumbest guys I
challenges
know.
that you
Most
too.
fucking moron.
And yes,
And we
I
just
voted
outshine
against this particular
everyone with an
ordinance
important
previously. The
role
reason
in
I
the
voted
city
against it,
government.
Mr. Chairman, was that I felt once again too much regulation.
Okay,
By
hear me out.
doing
Question to the
nothing,
chair, to the
but just
administration.
being reasonable.
Are we up to date?
Hear me out
on
here.
our
What if we
oversight
just
and
paved the
our
entire city
inspections of our 3 decades?
and
Mr.
we
Chair?
issued permits for
I
all
asked
living
this question
things?
during
It's just an
budget last
extension
year,
of the
and I
pet
couldn't get a
ordinance.
straight
But like, if you want a
answer in terms of
tree
numbers,
or
so
you
I'm
want
just
to
curious
plant,
where we at?
maybe a lawn, like you get a permit for that.
the chair, again,
But we
the-
just the whole
there are
city
two-
will
two
start off with a
facets
blank
to the
slate of
triple
just
deckers.
being
One
paved.
is the-
No more roads,
the
no more
110
parking, nothing
program, and the
specific. You
other
can
is
just
gonna
put
be
your
the
car
rental
wherever you want.
registry.
You can
We're
just
working
drive right through
with-
someone's backyard
with
if
the two of
traffic's
those
tight. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
Brendan, I just had an
together
interesting
so that we're
thought
doing
going
the
off what you
110 and
said,
the
kind
triple
of.
and the, rental,
When it
inspections
comes
at
to
the
a
same
legitimate
time for the
decision with real
parking spaces,
ramifications
as well
like
as all
this
the dwelling
police
units are
body
done at the
camera
same time.
stipend,
but we're
The line
yeah,
is
I think
we
we're,
have no
overall on the
authority. No one can
110s,
do
I think
anything.
we're on
When it comes to
on
people
target.
having a
We're
little bit
not
more parking
completely
spots on their
target
street,
on the triple deckers.
there's
So the
some sort of
110
general
program is
vibe
much
that there's
You
some sort
rule
of
with an iron
grand
fist.
emperor.
We've had
There's some grand emperor, like some dune
some
god
staffing
emperor
issues in
of
the
Worcester
planning
who can just like
department or
make
the,
these
building
like
department itself,
structural
where we just
changes
had,
instantly
some
and that they're
retirees and
appealing
things
to,
like that.
you
It
know,
just
like
took a
it's
little while to fill
insane.
it,
It's like
but
they know
again, this
when it doesn't
this
matter
particular
and then they
position,
just talk a bunch of
there's
bullshit.
a
And then when it
dedicated
comes
position
time
that was
to have an
created
actually
for
impactful
the
vote,
review of
they have
these,
to
as
like
well as a lot of the
coordinate
site
around
issues
these
on
like
new,
made up
developments
negging
that we're not getting
lines
done
because
very
they don't know how to actually
Mr.
articulate
Chairman, I
their
want to
position
state
because they don't
that,
have one.
Mr. Spencer
They just want to be
has
there.
a lot of work.
I, for one,
that's been
like Brendan's
in front of
idea,
him.
and
I think we should focus
I want to
and
do it just because I
prioritize
want to go down to
getting
City Hall
these,
every day and say,
three-deckers
"Can I
up to
please have a
date, Mr.
permit for
Chairman.
my worm?"
And I want to just reiterate, the
I need
reason
my
I voted
worm
against this
permit.
ordinance was a concern
My worm
that's
it.
manifesting right now. But in addition to that, we have parking
I'm back, Nico. I
Way
need
back
another
into that
worm
past
permit.
administration asked for a comprehensive parking master plan to be completed. People weren't paving over their front yards on Level Street and other streets because of they didn't like green space. It was out of necessity, Mr. Chairman. There is no plan for folks. This isn't 1924 when there was one vehicle. You can have up to 6, 7, 8 vehicles.
There was only
depending on
one
the
vehicle in
situation.
Worcester
Now
in
we have an
1924.
economy
Oh,
that
Sharon
can
is a
afford to
bitch.
live
The
here.
list was
Even
so
more
long.
people living together and more cars having to get around. Thank goodness for our public transportation being fare free. But this is real life stuff. I just got a call from a friend up on Merrifield Street, and I work closely with Chief Sergeant in the police department around addressing that, Mr. Chairman. We have folks walking 2 and 3 streets. Up
This
to
meeting
Belmont
is like I
who
usually
are
get pretty
suffering
bummed up by
and
city council
disabled
meetings,
because there's nowhere to
but this
park,
one
Mr.
especially isn't
We've
like,
got to come up with a plan.
a real
Parking master
a real
plan.
dark hole
That's
in
my
my
motion,
soul.
Mr. Chairman. My second motion to that is that we take a look at Merrifield Street and try to balance the folks that are playing soccer behind the school there, as well as, Mr. Chairman, working with
But we love
all
it.
departments to try to figure out a plan.
We didn't even talk
I know
about
there's a
how
little
the corner grill
lot,
burned
as you-
down
My
last
wife
night.
used to live on Merrifield.
Oh yeah,
Street
that's
right
kind of
there.
wild. Does anyone know
Go
why?
to
Has
the
that
next
come out
street
yet?
when we get to
I
the
wonder
top,
what happened.
and the
I
city
saw a
property
couple of
after
tweets from
some parking
Firebugs
there.
that were
We've gotta
reporting
do
it was a fire that
something to
started in the
provide relief
basement
for
of
the elderly,
the
for folks who are
furniture
challenged,
refinishing place that was there.
and not able-bodied.
But that building
to
is
get to
gone.
their
If anyone
homes,
hasn't seen it,
and
like
all
it's
sorts of
wild. Like
weather,
it's
Mr.
gone.
Chairman.
It's just a
This-
hole in the
Yeah,
ground
straight
with a pile of
down.
bricks.
Yeah.
Fucking crazy, dude.
Okay, so
That makes sense though. Do you like they like?
Also,
It's no
Council-
joke. Like polyurethane,
okay,
like
so
covered
we have
rags,
Council
will
King's
just
changes,
spontaneously
master
combust.
plan and balance the Merrifield Street between the
Those
soccer
chemicals are
fields.
no fucking
Those in
joke.
favor, opposed, so ordered.
I know the
Motion
corner
sends
grill
back
is
to
not
administration.
Come on,
I'm
Jack.
just saying it's the
Favor.
fucking building. It's the
So
iconic
ordered.
thing in that building, so people know what we're talking about.
You were doing so good too, Jack.
You little worm. I need a permit for you.
Finance items, 9.36 A and B and 9.37 A and B.
Epic Stratton. That is a great headline you just posted that I'm just going to read into
Bergman?
Yes.
the link
Correa?
without clicking
Yes.
on it.
Councilor GA?
Yes.
Councilor King?
Yes.
Councilor Carlson? Councilor Nayyem?
Yes.
Councilor Rivera? Councilor Rose?
Yes.
Councilor Russell?
Yes.
Councilor
While we're
Tierney?
in the spirit of just tossing money
Yes.
around for no obvious reason in council.
This brings us to suspension. I just have a couple items, and then Mayor Carlson has one. And so,
9.37 A through C.
okay, what's that?
9.37 A, I think, through C.
Did I miss one?
A through B.
What's that? I didn't collect the one.
Okay.
9.37 A and B?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Don't tell Nico how to do his job.
Okay, so I just have, about a month ago, I just talked about food insecurity and just asked the manager to provide an update, maybe at the next manager's calendar on where we are with providing funding for the food insecurity. And also, there's an article in the paper that they regard
I can't take this.
lawsuit and Holden.
Talking about it like it's kind of OPEB.
You're talking about.
Know what our strategy is.
Yeah, you know the food insecurity.
Holding ourselves in the state of Massachusetts and other people who have contracts with us. So I'd like to do that next week if we can, if it meets the schedule. Those in favor, opposed, so aye. Councilmember Carlson. Councilor
Yeah.
Tel.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. As we all know, it's that time of year where our streets are being swept. And unfortunately,
Poetic way to put that.
here we are again.
I can't listen to this. I'm gonna come back
We
in
are
2 minutes.
putting the signs up 6 days in advance.
This is like
Of which,
some Lake
you know what,
Wobegon
for
shit.
people who are in
We all know
single-family
it's
homes
time
and
for
have
the
a driveway,
streets to be
that's
cleaned
all
again.
great. But I
And they
got to
put
tell
up
you
the
something,
signs
Mr. Chairman.
6
And again,
days early.
I truthfully was shocked by this, because this has happened throughout my district. And 6 days, and I can verify 6 days because one of those neighborhoods was mine.
And my car got towed.
Those signs go up, and I watch them sweep the streets. It's not fair. It's not fair to the folks who live in this city. And look, DPW does a great job, and sweeping the streets is really essential. I'm one who, quite frankly, think that the more we can sweep the streets, the better off we are.
That's going to be the new qualifier for
Again,
council.
I can't tell
Everyone
you
does a
how
great job,
disappointed
but you all do
and
shitty work.
unfair that it is for those signs. There's no reason for that. I get it that it's a couple of days, but as I watch cars being towed,
They
I
didn't
mean,
tow
do you
them. They
think
just
that,
moved them
you know,
and
how does
ticketed
somebody know when they're coming?
Because it's
I
on the
mean,
sign,
and
6
quite
days in
frankly,
advance. How
you
much more
know,
notice do you
6
want?
days is a long time. And again, as I watch them drive down the street.
Also,
and
I got to
put
give credit to
cars,
the guy
you know,
that in my
tow
neighborhood
them
drives
out
the
of the
tow truck.
way.
He
This is
beeped
the reason
and
why
set off his
when
like
they put the
siren.
signs up, that people aren't
Because
paying
I didn't
attention
actually get out
because,
there in
quite
time for them
honestly,
to
when
like
are you coming?
the time.
I
At
think
8
we
o'clock,
need to
he
fix this.
beeped in front of
I
my
think
house,
we
and I
need
came out and
to
moved my
work
car.
on this.
And then he
And
beeped
Mr.
in front of the
Chairman,
neighbor's house
through
for like a
you,
half an
I
hour,
would
and they never came
ask
out,
the
so he picked it up and moved it. But
administration
then he
to
put
have
it
a
back.
conversation with DPW about
Not
this,
not
because
in the
I'm sure
grand
if it's
scheme of
happening in my
towing
district,
crimes in the
rest
city.
assured
This is
that it's
pretty
happening in
low.
other districts. And as Councilor King just talked about Merrifield Street, I can tell you go up and down Belmont Street, and when those
Bill has
signs are
embraced
up
the
for
darkness.
days on end, as it
I
is,
told you
for
earlier.
some
dark,
neighborhoods
Bill.
park.
I told you earlier,
And
Brendan.
then
There's a
you
dark
add
heart in the
to
city.
that. And again, I want to say, I mean, I think DPW does a great job with sweeping the streets.
Fun fact for you folks
We
that
can't have those signs up
have
for
issues
this
with
amount
street
of
sweeping.
time. So
There are streets in this city. Mine happens to be one of them.
We
We get
have,
swept every week.
RGI for about
Spring,
Council
summer,
Moore.
fall.
Really?
Every week.
Mr. Chair,
How?
just wanted to.
They're called emergency
very
arteries.
quickly and show really
Wow.
deep
We have a
gratitude
special
to the fire
designation for a
department
handful of roads in the city
the
to get swept
catastrophic
every
fire
week.
that obliterated 3 businesses
Amazing.
on Pleasant
I have an
Street.
incredibly
And I
dust-free
appreciate the
suite.
city manager
Wouldn't
following
it
me
be
within
so terrible
half
if
an hour of
He's
that.
talking
fire,
corner.
if a fire truck
I had a chance to talk
had to drive over
to
dirt?
both the building owner, Isaac,
Oh, here we
and then
go.
the 3 business owners, Edwin, Edison, and Olivia from Lulu's Bakery, who was on the plane. And all 4 were very traumatized, just very grateful for the police, for the fire department and first responders. I feel really bad for those folks. All their dreams for their families. They shared how they, one of them had wanted to have a business for his son. It really broke my heart. And it was really good to just talk to them and offer my support. And thank you, Mr. Manager, for doing whatever we can to either help relocate or at least amplify whatever support they need from us. I just also want to say really special thank you to Chief Dyer. We were exchanging emails at 1:30 a.m. Because he was updating me, and I was really worried about his men and women. I called him again today before council. It sounds like folks are doing okay, which is great. Just really want to show my appreciation for how they were able to contain such a difficult
Depending on how
fire
this fire started, I think
it
we
not
should
to be,
relocate the furniture
expanded to the
refinishing
other,
business into the
residents
basement
there
of City
is
Hall.
huge. So just deep gratitude, and I hope those folks are getting some rest tonight.
Think about it.
My second item has to do with a petition that I'd like to bring back to council. I think the city clerk and I had a really good discussion. There was an original
Completely
petition
flat Worcester
that
comment.
I made a motion to send to public health.
In no
It
time.
related to Resident Terry Kelly speaking about encampments. I think that the city clerk and I compared the 2 petitions, and I'd like to bring the secondary petition that was supposed to come onto council tonight, which is in front of folks. And if that's okay, I'm going to read that. So this is from ID Morales. It reads, "My name is
Here we
Maidi
go.
Morales. I'm very concerned about the sweeps that are taking place in the encampments across the city. Our homeless folks are in great need of support and services. I would like to request administration work to either issue a temporary moratorium on encampments, sweeps, or find a suitable site to properly and safely support individuals living in encampments throughout the city while the city works on a plan to expand shelter beds, temporary housing options, and
Hell
bring
yeah.
supportive housing units online. Further, I request that this item be sent to the next meeting of the Public Health and Human Services Standing Committee for further discussion." I think Madam Chairwoman Rivera has a meeting. We have a meeting on the 9th. So it feels very appropriate for this petition to go to that. And I believe you have agreed to that. So thank you.
Wow. Imagine a counselor actually
Thank you, Mr.
doing something
Chairman.
with their job.
It has come to my attention,
So
many
crazy.
of the counselors, that Worcester residents have been facing evictions that have been served and executed by outside constables. I've also had a conversation with the city manager earlier.
Kate Toomey, you've been
So
called
these
out.
outside constables are not licensed here.
Oh, no,
by
wait,
our
she's in the
departments
sheriff
or
department.
approved by the city council. And so based on Mass General Law, Chapter
be a constable soon
239,
enough.
thank you to the WAF Worcester anti-foreclosure team for teaching me all this stuff. But based on Mass General Law, Chapter 239, constables only have power within their own town, and which their bond is tied to. And so constables not licensed here nor approved by the city council trying to evict Worcester residents would fall under falsifying or pretending to be an authorized officer acting as a licensed constable here. And so my hope
Sorry,
is that
we're
we
still
could end this
here.
now, that we could really end all the incidents that actually led to physical harm and damages caused by outside constables to our residents.
Another smart order from two
So
that
I would
will
just
never
like to
get looked into.
motion
Yep.
a request for the city manager to not allow anyone, including a court process server or an outside constable not licensed as a constable here in Worcester and approved by the city council, to have the power and ability to execute an eviction.
You guys want
and
to
that we
start our
commit
own
to
police
protect our
department?
residents from
Oh, hell
physical
yeah.
harm in these incidents.
The goofy cops.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not sure what all that means.
You can do crack.
That was
He
beautiful.
literally said, "I'm not sure what all that means."
Flip
Yeah.
the shit out of that.
Holy shit, dude!
Put that in his campaign video.
What a fucking asshole! Dude. I
It's
can't-
Brown suspension to vote on.
It always goes on the next calendar. It will be on the next calendar for Tuesday, from the suspension. Correct? Yes. So that will go on next week's calendar, along with council, tell how you guys are to go on next week's calendar. And
Maybe by then you'll know what it means.
A clarification for the order that for the petition, it will go to public health first, and then it will come to council.
I can't, well, technically, since it's not on this week's calendar, it's an open meeting law issue. So it goes on next week's calendar, both your items. Then I'm sure there's something in Council Rivera's committee that we probably can talk about already, I would think. So there's an item there already.
No. I would like for it to go to, the reason why it came now under suspension is because I believe that the city clerk and I talked about it. It was thought previously that there were similar petitions. They're not. They're different
I
petitions.
understand that. Even if it's a separate petition, it's an open meeting law issue. Since it wasn't on the calendar, nobody had a chance to read it. It goes on the next week's calendar. In the back of the section, you'll see there's a whole bunch of items under suspension that's put on there.
Could I maybe have the city clerk chime in?
Excuse me?
Could I perhaps have the city clerk chime in?
I don't trust you.
We went through this just recently on another, I think it was one of Council King's issues, but yeah. But that's the ruling of the chair. That's what we've been doing.
I understand that, Mr. Chairman. I'm not trying to
But what
be
if you're
combative
wrong?
here, but the original item, the reason why it's not on today's agenda is that it was thought there were two different items. So I'm bringing it under
We can have the
suspension.
solicitor, we'll have the solicitor give an answer to that.
Through the chair to the council, the chair is correct. It would be an open meeting law violation to send that to committee next week. Your petition has to go on the next calendar, next agenda. So that's what the rules are, and that's also the open meeting law requirements.
I now
You can't
think
bring things
that
up,
that's not the
take action
case
on them
once that he
that
said
weren't on
that.
the posted
Yeah.
agenda.
So
Well, I got an idea.
This is the Jim Cramer of municipal law.
Open meeting laws for an emergency situation. I would consider that. I think some people would think this is emergency, not under
So can I just expand on that? The reason why this feels urgent to me is we've had CHL close its beds. We have had Blessed Sacrament. There's no plans for it. Folks are dying, and I simply feel the urgency of this item to go to public health because it is a public health emergency. And so that's why I'm bringing it under an emergency suspension. The city clerk and I had this discussion. I'm not bringing it to break the rules. I'm bringing it because there's urgency to this item. So
the issue would be you could not have foreseen that, and that's why it wasn't on the calendar. This is right. So we'll send that to committee.
Thank you.
Council King.
But I still have no idea what's happening.
Appreciate your leadership on that. What I will say is I got a couple of things. One, just based on some of the comments today, I didn't anticipate the $27 million matter would hold it. And as such, it's very acute. I'd like to make the following motion that we ask our administration to do our legislative, what's his title, Mr. Chairman?
City Solicitor?
It's under suspension is literally for things that weren't foreseen.
If the motion is that the administration consider asking the government and community relations folks to reach out to the office of Governor Healy to assist in this. This is not on the front on the mayor. I know you're doing that. I know you're on top of it. It's just from the council.
Sure.
It's not in the bridge. I know you're in process of doing that. But that's the motion as it relates to that.
Those in favor?
And thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion to adjourn. Okay, those in favor? Opposed, so ordered.
They've never not taken a roll call on adjourning before, have they?
I don't actually know now that you say it. I think they have voted to. I think maybe they do it different every time. Who knows?
Well, what a stupid ass meeting.
Yeah, I see. I like doing local journalism and covering Worcester in general. Tonight has made me reevaluate my entire life. This was really like a psychically punishing meeting.
Bill, do you want to stop doing journalism and then we just become Twitch streamers that open packs of Pokemon cards?
Yeah, that sounds cool.
All right.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. That sounds great. Actually,
Tune in next Tuesday for that, everybody.
Yeah, sort of like an anything but this type of vibe is what I'm feeling right now. That was brutal. I was crafting a tweet while the back half of the meeting was going on, but like literally every meeting where there was a contentious issue since January of last year has been a small group of smart people raising concerns, and then a larger group of extremely dumb people blathering nonsense for several hours, and then the larger group of dumb people votes the dumb thing through. That is what we've seen. That's the dynamic of literally every single significant vote. Every 8-3 vote that's happened since last January. And like, what are you going to do? Like the Progressive Coalition doesn't have the votes to get anything through. So it's going to happen that way. But God damn, is it depressing to see every time it gets worse because you just know how it's going to go, but then you have to watch it happen.
Yeah. And they're going to ramp it up even more too, because they think that's how they're going to win their elections.
Yes.
So it's going to get worse until November.
Yep. It's going to get worse.
In their eyes, that is doing stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And by the grace of God, it backfires, and there's the progressive takeover of City Hall. It's three seats away. It's a 6-5 majority of 3 seats away, and that makes the council an entirely different entity.
Yep.
Up until then, it's not going to be any different than what we saw tonight. Just worse, you know.
And again, we could, things look good in hope. Like the hope is there because we could make that change just based on at large.
Mhm.
You wouldn't even have to swing any of the districts. You could just do it at large. So there's many paths to that, especially when you take into consideration that there are great candidates in the districts as well. So.
Right. No, it's entirely possible. It's like it's worth being excited about. It's like legitimately an unprecedented prospect. It's just watching these meetings week after week. It is so hard to feel excited because you're like, how could this fucking shit show of stupid behavior possibly change? But it really can. It's just like watching it. It's like, all right, what if Candy Merrill Carlson said that stupid shit and didn't win every time? you know
It
what
would
I mean?
be it would be amazing, and that's that's what we're going for.
Yeah, eye on the ball.
Eye on the ball.
Yeah.
Right. Keep it tight. Everybody tighten up. But yeah, I think it was great to see my friends. I love to see my friends. My friends in the comments.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's nice. We got to talk about how stupid Walter Bird is.
Yeah. Yeah, Walter Bird is the stupidest guy in town. It's just nice to bask in the glory of them just fucking blowing it. And again, it's because he couldn't get 300 signatures. That's the only reason that he's willingly going against the tell.
Mm-hmm.
This is not important at all, but I really like the way that sticker looks on my wall, the logo up there.
Oh, yeah.
It does. It looks nice.
Beautiful. Good placement. Yeah, if someone could get one of those printed out.
Yeah.
Do that. Yeah, we can do that. So, yeah, I think, once again, congrats to Johanna. And donate to your favorite candidates. They all have ActBlue accounts, and they all have many ways to donate to them. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're supporting your people. They're starting to do candidate forums and things like that already. There's a forum coming up this week, maybe. There's a proposal to put a 6-bed shelter in the Burncoat neighborhood at the Zion Lutheran Church that already has the Red Metro Chuds railing against it. So we'll share on social media the meeting that's coming up for that. There's a couple of them. There's an informational meeting this week, and then there's going to be some official city stuff that I think people should comment on and support. Keep an eye out for that, support that, because you can see, and Yenni has gone through it as well, you can see how hard people are working to try and do something at different places throughout the city. You can see how hard a tell is working to try and support that, and all the amazing work people like Manny Morales are doing. So get out there and support them, back them up. At the very least, just make public comment. Show up to them when people are asking these fucked up questions and saying horrible things. Support. This is a hard situation. There's a lot going on, but to act like that, you can keep it out of your neighborhood and it's going to stop it from encroaching on your life. And to act like it's not being able to see it absolves us all of the situation, and our complicity in it is ridiculous. And so I think we have to try and do whatever we can, whatever you're capable of. And and the more support we do up the road, the less things you need like this down the road. And so support your neighbors that are trying to do the right thing, and tweet at Walter Bird that he's stupid. He'll get so mad. He'll fly off the handle pretty soon. It's gonna be
He does see the tweets.
He absolutely sees the tweets.
Very much sees the tweets. So
if you want a Wootenay sticker, come to a show. I have them. I have lots of them.
That's how I got mine on my wall.
Yeah, see, that's forced perspective showing that's much bigger than it actually is. Don't be disappointed when I hand you a small 4-inch sticker, but come grab one and put it anywhere. Put it on Eric Batista's car for humor. Yeah, I will. I absolutely will. So we have pins also. We have T-shirts too, but we only have weird size T-shirts because we ordered them a long time ago and we've gone through them. So, but feel free to go online and order yourself from our store, wct3k.storeenvy.com. Some really gorgeous stuff. You see those examples there. And the Commenters Union shirt, which I love. I'm very obsessed with. We might be putting up a Nico shirt soon. I don't know. We're still trying to decide whether or not we want that fight.
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea. I don't know. Make sure you subscribe to billshaner.substack.com for all your local independent journalism and soon to be magic card building, deck building tutorials from me and Bill on Twitch.
Oh my god. Yep.
It's going to be great. Subscribe to Parts Unknown. It's my podcast about wrestling. We have a new episode coming out tomorrow talking about the history of championship belts. It's fun. They're weird. So check those out.
Yeah.
We're going to make Idella Hazard fan club shirts, guaranteed. It should be like, I don't know, thinking of a riff on the Hellfire Club. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But Brendan, you got anything to plug?
Get nothing. Get nothing, man. This has just sucked the life out of me tonight.
Yeah.
Plugging weekly street sweeping.
It's awesome, guys. I mean, you should try it.
Thank you.
You should try this thing you have control over. Here.
Thank you all so much for tuning in with us once again. Go to No Jerks next week. I don't have a graphic for it tonight. I don't see it, but make sure that you're checking it out. I think this is the old one. That's the old one. Never mind. Ignore that. Go to follow Travis on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, WCT3000. Follow Woot and Any Comedy. We got a bunch of shows coming up starting June 1st. We have some killer headliners coming in. Some of our shows are going to be at the White Room now. We're doing shows at the White Room, and it's going to be very fun. We have Eddie Pepitone coming to the White Room later this summer.
Hell yeah, he's so funny.
He's the best. He's incredible.
Unreal.
Thank you all. And is there a meeting next Tuesday?
I believe there is. Yep.
Then we will see you next Tuesday, everybody. Goodbye. We love
Have a great
you.
See ya.